The distress beacon pulsed into the void, 3 seconds of digital screaming before the mountain swallowed it whole. Sergeant Aidan Cole knew the truth as his fingers left the transmitter. Help was 90 minutes away. His team had maybe 10, 40 hostiles closing in, 3 wounded bleeding out on frozen stone, ammunition down to final mags. The Dryspire Mountains didn't forgive mistakes, and tonight, Viper Squad had made their last one. Then a rifle cracked from somewhere in the darkness, impossibly distant, impossibly precise. One hostile dropped, then another, and another. Someone was hunting, someone they couldn't see, someone who moved through these mountains like a ghost with a rifle and a singular purpose. No one dies tonight. If you want to see how this story ends, stick with me until the final word, and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this tale travels. Let's go. The first mortar round hit at 21:47 hours, and Sergeant Aidan Cole's world condensed into fire and flying granite. Down! Get down! The blast slammed him against the ridgeline, ears ringing, mouth full of dust and the metallic tang of his own blood. Around him, Viper Squad scattered into whatever cover the Dryspire Mountains offered, which wasn't much. Shallow depressions, loose rock, wind-carved stone that wouldn't stop a determined sneeze, let alone high explosive shells. Contact south! Corporal Maya Torres was already returning fire, her M4 spitting 3-round bursts toward muzzle flashes below. Multiple positions! I count at least... The second mortar silenced her mid-sentence. Aidan's head snapped around. Torres! She was down, not moving. Shrapnel had opened her leg from knee to hip, dark blood spreading too fast across the stone. Medic! Private Nolan Price scrambled toward her, his aid kit already out. Sergeant, You need to stay low. Aidan grabbed his collar, yanking him behind a boulder as automatic fire stitched the ground they'd just occupied. Harper, talk to me. Specialist Rachel Harper had the only thermal scope in the squad, a battered AN/PAS-13 that was probably older than she was. She'd gone prone on the ridge's highest point, the most exposed position, because that's what spotters did. They died first so everyone else could shoot straight. 40-plus hostiles. Harper's voice was steady, clinical, the calm of someone who'd already accepted the math. 3 teams. Western approach has a belt fed, probably PKM. Southern groups got the mortars, 2 tubes by the sound. Eastern flanks moving up with it. Jesus, Sarge, they've got a technical, heavy MG. Aidan's mind raced through scenarios, discarded them all. No air support, not in this soup, no artillery. They were 40 clicks from anything friendly. No reinforcements. Cole. That was Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, their second in command, voice tight with the kind of fear that came from seeing the board and knowing all the moves led to checkmate. We need to move. Now. Move where? Aidan gestured at the sheer drop behind them, the killing field below, the mountains that rose like walls on either side. They've got us boxed. We move, we die tired. We stay, we die certain. It wasn't wrong. The position was tactically indefensible, a shallow saddle between 2 peaks that they'd chosen because it was supposed to be a quiet observation post. Watch the valley, count trucks, report Nextville at dawn. Simple, except someone had been watching them watch the valley. Torres is bleeding out. Private First Class Kira Santos had taken over first aid, her hands slick with blood as she worked a tourniquet around what was left of Maya's leg. She needs a bird, now. There are no birds. Multi Specialist Dylan Hart was on the radio, his voice rising with each repeated call. Falcon 6, Falcon 6, this is Viper Actual with emergency traffic. How copy? Static. Falcon 6, do you copy? More static. The mountains didn't just swallow sound, they swallowed hope, prayer, last words. Another mortar round hit close enough that Aidan felt the heat. Rock fragments peppered his face. Someone was screaming. Might have been him. Ammo check! Webb's voice cut through the chaos. Sound off! 4 mags! Harper. 3! Santos. 2 and change! Price, his voice cracking. 5! Hart, always precise. 3! Webb. Aidan looked down at his own vest. 2 magazines plus the one in his rifle. 90 rounds between him and whatever came after. He'd been in firefights that burned through that in 30 seconds. Conserve your ammo, he said, knowing how stupid it sounded. Controlled pairs, pick your targets. Make them count, Webb finished, their old instructor's mantra. It had seemed wise in training. Now it was just math, their bullets versus their minutes. Both running out. The Western team opened up with the PKM, long traversing bursts that chewed the ridgeline to gravel. Aiden pressed himself into stone that was somehow both freezing and burning, his mind cataloging damage. Torres critical, Nolan probably concussed from that second blast. Santos and Harper solid, heart panicking, but functional, Webb. Webb was looking at him with eyes that said, "What now, Sergeant? What's the play?" There was no play. "Beacon," Aiden said. "What?" "Emergency beacon. Hit it." Hart stared at him. "Sarge, protocol says beacon is for hit the beacon." The specialist's hands moved to his vest, fingers fumbling the distress transmitter from its pouch. Standard issue. Satellite linked. Broadcast range of 600 miles, supposedly. Aiden had never actually seen one used, never heard of anyone who had. The device chirped once as Hart activated it, a small, optimistic sound completely at odds with their situation. Then it went silent, doing its invisible work, screaming into space. "How long?" Webb asked. "For what? The beacon just tells them we're dying, doesn't give us wings." "QRF could scramble in 90 minutes. Maybe, if they launch right now, if they fly stupid and fast, if we're still here." Webb absorbed that, nodded slowly. "So we hold for 90. We hold until we can't." Another mortar, closer. The enemy was walking them in, adjusting fire, professional. Whoever was down there had done this before. "Torres isn't going to make it 90 minutes, Santos said quietly. She wasn't being defeatist, just honest. The corporal's breathing had gone shallow and rapid, her skin the color of old paper. "Then we make it quick." Aiden checked his rifle, round-chambered, selector on semi. "Harper, I need targets. Priority is that mortar team." "On it." She shifted her scope. "Southern position, bearing 175, range, 800 meters. 2 operators, 1 spotter. They're set up behind a rock formation. Good defilade. I can't get an angle. Can anyone?" "Negative. They're dug in smart." Of course they were. This wasn't some militia rabble. This was coordinated, competent, and very much intent on killing them all. The PKM opened up again. Rounds cracked overhead, the sound of high-velocity metal turning air into plasma. Aiden risked a glance over the boulder. Muzzle flashes winked below. Too many, too coordinated. The Western team was advancing by fire and movement, bounding from cover to cover while the PKM kept them suppressed. "Contact west!" Webb was already firing, short controlled bursts. "They're pushing!" "Santos! Get on that flank! Price, you're with her!" "Sergeant, I can't leave Torres. She's stable or she's not. Move!" They moved. Good soldiers, all of them, young, scared, competent. They followed orders even when those orders were probably going to get them killed. Harper's rifle barked, once, twice. "Western advance, 2 down. They're backing off." For now, Webb changed mags with practiced efficiency. "They'll try again, soften us up with mortars, then rush when we're rattled. Then we don't get rattled." "Aiden." Webb used his first name, which meant this was off the record. Personal. "We both know how this goes." "Yeah, we hold until QRF arrives." "And if they don't arrive in time?" Aiden met his eyes. "Then we hold anyway, because that's what we do." It was a good answer, command-worthy. It was also bullshit, and they both knew it. The truth was simpler and uglier. They were going to die on this ridge, and the only question was how many they could take with them. Another mortar round. This one hit left, spraying Santos and Price with rock fragments. Santos yelped, more surprise than pain, and returned fire blindly over her cover. "Discipline," Aiden shouted. "I see muzzle flash, you shoot, otherwise you're just making noise." "There," Harper called out. "Eastern approach, technical moving up, range 1,000 meters." Aiden swung his rifle toward the new threat. Through his optic, he could just make out the shape. A pickup truck with a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed. Russian DSHK, probably. 12.7 millimeters, big enough to punch through their cover and everyone behind it. "Can you reach it?" he asked Harper. "Maybe. Wind's tricky. I'd need 3-4 shots to walk it in." "You've got one. They get that technical positioned, we're done." She didn't argue, just adjusted her scope, controlled her breathing, and fired. The truck kept moving. "Miss. Windage was off. Adjusting." The technical's gunner opened up. The sound was different from the PKM, deeper, slower, each round a thunderclap. Bullets the size of markers smashed into the ridge, blowing basketball-sized chunks out of solid rock. "Cover! Hard cover!" They scattered. Aiden threw himself behind a boulder that suddenly seemed very inadequate. The DSK walked its fire across their position with methodical precision, searching, probing, demolishing anything that might hide a human being. Harper fired again. The technical swerved but didn't stop. Damn it! She was furious, at herself, at the wind, at the universe. "I can't." The technical's engine changed pitch. Aiden risked a look. The truck was backing up, repositioning for a better angle. They had maybe 30 seconds before it could bring that gun to bear on their entire line. "Santos, Price, concentrate fire on that truck. Webb, you're with me on the western approach. Harper, keep eyes on those mortars." That's when the world changed. A single rifle shot cracked from somewhere to the north, impossibly distant, impossibly clear. It didn't sound like their weapons. Different pitch, different rhythm. Wrong. And one of the figures advancing from the west dropped like someone had cut his strings. "What the?" Webb's head snapped around. "Who's shooting?" "I don't know." Aiden scanned the northern ridge through his optic. Nothing, just rock and fog and darkness. Another shot, another hostile down. The technical's gunner, who'd been traversing his weapon toward them, simply folded over his gun and went still. "Sniper," Harper breathed. "Friendly sniper. Range has to be 900 meters, maybe more." "From where?" Webb was scanning the ridgeline with his naked eyes, as if that would help. "I don't see anyone." "Neither do I, but somebody's—" 3 more shots in rapid succession. Each one found flesh. The Western assault team, which had been advancing with professional discipline, suddenly lost that discipline. Men dove for cover. The PKM went silent. Someone was shouting in a language Aiden didn't recognize. "They're retreating," Santos sounded disbelieving. "The Western team is pulling back. Don't celebrate yet." Aiden kept his rifle up, his eyes moving between sectors. Could be a feint. Could be... The mortars opened up again, but this time they weren't firing at Viper Squad. They were firing north, random, desperate shots into the fog, trying to suppress a target they couldn't see. One of the mortar operators pitched backward, dead before he hit the ground. "Jesus Christ," Price whispered. "Who is this guy?" Thermal signature small. Harper had her scope pressed tight to her eye. Fast, moving between positions after every shot. I think it's a woman." "A woman?" Webb laughed, slightly hysterical. "One woman is doing this?" "One woman with one hell of a rifle." Aiden's mind raced. Friendly sniper, had to be. But they were 40 clicks from friendly lines. No way to get here this fast. Unless she'd been here all along. Watching, waiting. Another shot. The second mortar operator went down. The enemy's return fire intensified, panicked now, spraying the northern ridge with everything they had. Aiden could hear the fear in their shooting, the desperation. They'd gone from hunters to hunted in the span of minutes. "Sarge," Hart was staring at his radio like it had just spoken. "I'm getting traffic. Encrypted burst transmission." "From who?" "Don't know. It's not our frequency, but it's close, real close." "Put it on speaker." Hart adjusted the radio. Static hissed, then cleared. A voice emerged, female, calm, with the kind of flat effect that came from total concentration. "Viper." "Actual, this is Raven. Hold your position. Do not advance. I'm cleaning house." The transmission cut off. Aiden stared at the radio, at Webb, at Harper. "Raven?" Santos asked. "Who the hell is Raven?" "I don't know." Aiden keyed his transmit. "Raven, Viper actual. What's your position? How many are you? Static. Then, 1. North Ridge. You're welcome to help, but stay clear of my firing lanes. Raven out. Wait. But she was gone. Just the hiss of empty frequencies and the crack of her rifle speaking in the dark. Webb looked at Aiden. One person. Apparently, one person is destroying a 40-man assault force. Apparently. I don't believe it. Believe what you want. Right now, she's the only reason we're not dead. Another shot from the north, another hostile down. This one had been trying to flank through the eastern rocks. She'd spotted him, calculated the shot through terrain Aiden couldn't even see clearly, and put him down at what had to be 1,000 meters. She's good, Harper said quietly. Professional respect from one shooter to another. Really, really good. The enemy was in full disarray now. The disciplined assault had fractured into desperate pockets of men trying not to die. Some were retreating, others were pinned, unable to move without exposing themselves to that invisible rifle. A few were still trying to fight back, their tracers arcing uselessly toward a ghost. Torres is stable. Santos had returned to the wounded corporal, checking vitals with shaking hands. Still critical, but the bleeding's controlled. She might make it. Might. It was better than the certainty of 5 minutes ago. Aiden watched the carnage below through his optic. Bodies littered the mountainside. The technical sat silent, its gunner draped over the DSHK like a discarded coat. The mortar position was abandoned, both operators down. The PKM team had vanished entirely, retreated or eliminated, he couldn't tell. 12 minutes since the first shot, maybe 15 hostiles down. 0 casualties on the friendly side. It was the most lopsided engagement Aiden had ever witnessed. Movement, Harper called. Valley floor, vehicles. Aiden's momentary relief evaporated. He swung his optic down. Headlights. Multiple vehicles moving up the mountain road. The bulk and shape resolved as they drew closer. Armored personnel carriers. At least 2, maybe 3. And behind them, something bigger. Contact armor, he said, his voice flat. 2 APCs, 1 technical with mounted gun, and is that a BTR? Harper adjusted her scope. Confirmed, BTR 80, cannon carrier. Webb swore softly. Our mysterious friend can't shoot through steel. No. Aiden's hand moved to the radio. Raven, Viper actual. We have armor inbound, multiple vehicles. Do you copy? Silence. Then, I see them. Can you hold your position? I'll handle it. The transmission cut off again. Aiden wanted to key back, to ask how exactly one sniper was supposed to handle armored vehicles, but Harper grabbed his arm. She's moving, fast, changing position to... I think she's setting up for vehicle interdiction. With what? You can't kill a BTR with a rifle. Maybe she knows something we don't. The vehicles ground closer. The lead APC was buttoned up tight, just a vision slit for the driver. The technical's gunner swept his weapon back and forth, searching for targets. And the BTR? The BTR was a rolling fortress, its 14.5mm cannon capable of turning their position into a crater. Aiden checked his rifle. 2 magazines left. Against armor, they might as well be throwing rocks. If she can't stop them, Webb said quietly, we retreat, down the eastern slope. Take our chances in the valley. Torres can't move. Then we carry her. Through a minefield of hostiles in the dark? Webb, that's... The sniper's rifle cracked. The technical's gunner jerked and fell. The driver, panicking without his gunner, swerved hard. Too hard. The truck's front wheel caught a rock. The whole vehicle tilted, and then momentum and gravity took over. It flipped once, twice, tumbling down the mountainside in a shower of sparks and torn metal. Holy... Price was transfixed. She just... Wait. Harper's voice was tight. She's targeting the APC, the lead one. She's aiming for the external fuel tank. That's insane. You can't puncture a fuel tank at that range with... The rifle cracked. Nothing happened. Then diesel began to spray from the APC's flank, a dark fountain in the vehicle's headlights. The driver stopped, confused. Crew began to bail out, probably thinking they were under RPG fire. 2 crew members made it 3 steps before they dropped. The third made it 4. The fourth didn't make it out of the hatch. She's killing the dismounts. Webb was mesmerized. Using the fuel leak to force them out, then picking them off. That's not tactics. Harper shook her head slowly. That's art. The second APC tried to maneuver around the disabled first. Bad idea. It exposed its flank to the northern ridge. Aiden didn't see where the shot went, but suddenly the APC was trailing smoke from its engine compartment. It ground to a halt, crew bailing. She got 3 of them before the others made it to cover. That left the BTR. The armored carrier was still climbing, cannon swiveling, searching. Its commander stood exposed in the top hatch, shouting orders that Aiden could hear even at this distance. She can't kill that. Webb stated it as fact. Not with a rifle. The armor's too thick. The rifle cracked. The BTR's commander stopped shouting. Slowly, almost gently, he slumped forward over the hatch rim, blocking it from closing. The BTR ground to a halt, its crew unable to seal themselves inside, unwilling to expose themselves to retrieve their commander's body. Unbelievable, Harper whispered. The remaining hostiles, maybe 20, maybe fewer, were in full retreat now. Smoke grenades popped, engines reversed. The disciplined assault force had become a mob fleeing an invisible executioner, and on the northern ridge, unseen, the sniper shifted to her next target. Aiden watched it all with a strange detachment. 5 minutes ago, they had been counting their last bullets. Now they were watching an entire enemy force disintegrate under precision fire from a single operator who moved like smoke and shot like lightning. "Who is she?" Santos asked, voicing what they were all thinking. "I don't know." Aiden keyed his radio. "Raven, Viper actual. Enemy is retreating. Nice work. What's your status?" "Static." Then, unexpectedly, "Engaged. Counter sniper. Stay down." "What?" A rifle shot cracked from somewhere to the east. Different sound, different rhythm, not Raven's weapon. Rock exploded on the northern ridge, right where Aiden thought she'd been positioned. "She's taking fire!" Harper tried to track the incoming shooter with her thermal scope. Eastern cliff face, elevated position, range, 900 meters. He's good. Really good. He almost... Another shot from the east. Raven's rifle answered immediately. 2 shots, fast, from a slightly different position. Silence. Then, counter sniper neutralized. Raven out. Just like that. 2 seconds, 2 shots, problem solved. Jesus, Price breathed. She just won a sniper duel in 2 seconds. "I don't think it was much of a duel," Harper said quietly. She was studying the eastern cliff through her scope, professional interest overriding her fear. She baited him, drew his fire with a decoy, moved during his shot, and fired from a new position while he was still tracking the false target. Textbook counter-sniping. Perfect execution. "Who trains like that?" Webb asked. "Who shoots like that?" "Someone who's done it before," Aiden said. "Many times." The valley had gone quiet. No more mortars, no more machine gun fire, no more advancing infantry, just smoke and bodies and the wind moving through the dry Spire Mountains like it always had, indifferent to human violence. "Raven, Viper actual." Aiden's voice was steady now, calm. The fear had burned away, leaving something harder. "Are we clear?" "Affirmative. Enemy forces retreating. You're secure for now." "For now?" "Reinforcements are inbound. 15 minutes. Hold your position and render aid to your wounded." "Copy that." "Raven." "Thank you." Silence. Then softer. "You're welcome, Sergeant. Raven out." The radio went silent. Santos immediately returned to Torres, checking vitals, adjusting the tourniquet. Price helped, his hands steadier now that they weren't about to die. Hart was back on the command net, updating their status. Webb moved between positions, checking ammunition, securing the perimeter. Aiden stood and stared at the northern ridge. She was still up there, watching, waiting. "You think she'll come down?" Harper asked, appearing at his shoulder. "I don't know." "You think she's real? Not some, I don't know, drone or remote weapons system, or you saw the thermal signature. She's real. 1 woman, 1 rifle, against 40 trained hostiles and armored vehicles. Aiden, that's not real. That's myth. Myth just saved our lives. Harper didn't argue. They stood together in silence, watching the ridge, waiting for movement that never came. 15 minutes later, the distinct thump, thump, thump of rotors echoed through the valley. A Blackhawk appeared, flying low and fast, its pilots pushing the envelope in the fog. It circled once, spotted their IR strobes, and settled onto the flattest piece of ground available. The crew chief jumped out, medics behind him. They went straight to Torres, loading her onto a stretcher with practiced efficiency. Nolan was next. Concussion protocol, he'd need observation. The rest of Viper Squad was ambulatory, though Santos had taken some shrapnel and wouldn't admit it. Sergeant Cole? The Blackhawk's pilot, a captain with too many flight hours and not enough sleep, approached with a tactical tablet. I need your debrief. What the hell happened up here? Aiden opened his mouth, closed it. How did you explain what had happened? How did you put it in a report? We were engaged by superior forces, he said carefully. 40-plus hostiles, coordinated assault. We called for QRF and held position. Enemy was driven off by... He stopped. The pilot was looking at him expectantly. By what, Sergeant? By friendly fire support. From where? There's no fire base within range. No air assets were dispatched until we got your beacon. Aiden glanced at the northern ridge. Still nothing. I don't know, sir, but someone was shooting. Someone saved us. The pilot followed his gaze, frowned. Someone. Yes, sir. You get a name? Unit designation? Call sign? Aiden hesitated. Then, Raven. Call sign Raven. The pilot's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Surprise? It was gone before Aiden could read it. Raven, the pilot repeated flatly. Copy that. Get your people loaded, Sergeant. We're wheels up in 3. They loaded. Torres first, unconscious but stable. Then Nolan, arguing weakly that he was fine. Then the rest of Viper Squad, carrying their weapons and their wounded pride and the knowledge that they'd survived something they shouldn't have. Aiden was the last to board. He paused at the Blackhawk's door, turned and looked one more time at the northern ridge. And there, just for a moment, he saw a silhouette. Small, steady, rifle across her chest, watching them leave. He raised his hand, a small gesture. Acknowledgement. Thanks. Respect. The silhouette didn't move, didn't wave back, just stood there, a statue against the dawn sky. Then she turned and vanished into the rocks, like she'd never existed at all. Sergeant, the crew chief was waving him in. We gotta move. Aiden climbed aboard. The Blackhawk lifted, banking away from the ridge, leaving the Dry Spire Mountains and their ghosts behind. As they flew, Aiden noticed the pilot on the radio, encrypted channel, voice too low to hear over the rotors, but he caught a few words. Confirm. Raven was active. No visual contact. Yes, sir. Again. Understood. The pilot caught him listening and killed the transmission. Their eyes met. The pilot shook his head once, a clear message. Don't ask. Aiden didn't. 3 days later, at Forward Base Ironclad, Aiden sat across from a colonel whose name tag said Morrison and whose eyes said, I've seen things that would break you. Your report, Sergeant. Morrison slid a thin folder across the desk. Read it. Aiden read. It was his engagement report, but different, sanitized. The enemy force was there. 40 hostiles, armored support, coordinated assault. Viper Squad's defensive action was there. Held position under fire, sustained casualties, called for QRF. The outcome was there. Enemy routed, friendly forces recovered. What wasn't there? Raven. No mention of sniper support. No reference to long-range precision fire. No explanation for how 6 soldiers with dwindling ammunition had defeated 40 hostiles in armored vehicles. Just demonstrated exceptional tactical resilience under adverse conditions. Sir, Aiden looked up. This isn't what happened. It's what happened according to official record. Official record is wrong. Official record is classified and final. Morrison's voice didn't change, but his eyes hardened. Sergeant Cole, you did good work up there. You and your team showed courage and discipline under fire. You're being recommended for commendation. Take the win. What about Raven? There is no Raven. Sir, I spoke to her. On the radio. My whole team saw... Your team saw enemy forces retreating under fire, in the fog, at night, after sustaining casualties and operating under extreme stress. Morrison leaned forward. Memory is unreliable, Sergeant, especially in combat. Especially when you're counting your last bullets and making peace with death. The mind creates narratives, heroes, angels, whatever it needs to cope. That's bullshit, sir. With respect. That's reality. With finality. Morrison stood, signaling the conversation was over. You held your ground. You saved your team. Be proud of that. The rest, he gestured at the folder, the rest is above your pay grade. And mine. Dismissed. Aiden wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, wanted to know who she was, where she'd come from, why she'd been there. But he was a sergeant in the United States Army, and a colonel had just given him a direct order disguised as advice. He saluted. Left. Outside Morrison's office, the rest of Viper Squad was waiting. They looked at him with questions in their eyes. Well? Webb asked. Official record says we held the position through tactical resilience. That's it? That's it. Harper laughed bitterly. Tactical resilience. Right. Not a ghost sniper who killed 30 hostiles in 12 minutes. There is no ghost sniper. Aiden repeated Morrison's words, tasting ash. Official record. They absorbed that. Santos looked angry. Price looked confused. Hart looked unsurprised. He'd probably already guessed how this would go. Webb just looked tired. So what do we do? Santos asked. We accept our commendations. We tell the story we're allowed to tell. We move on. And her? Aiden thought of the silhouette on the ridge, the calm voice on the radio, the impossible shots in the dark. She was never there. They stood in silence, 6 soldiers who knew the truth and couldn't speak it. Then Harper said quietly, My bunk. 20 minutes. All of you. In Harper's quarters, she pulled a manila envelope from her footlocker. No markings, no postage. Just appeared on her bunk that morning, she said. Inside, a photograph. It showed a silhouette on a ridge at sunset. Small figure, rifle across chest, facing away from the camera. The Dry Spire Mountains stretched behind her, beautiful and lethal. Handwritten across the bottom in precise script. Where others see darkness, I see the path forward. No signature, no explanation. They passed it around, this proof that couldn't be proven, this evidence that wouldn't be entered. We keep this, Harper said. It wasn't a question. We keep this, Aiden agreed. Price spoke up, his voice young and uncertain. What do you think she meant? Where others see darkness. Webb answered, It means while we were seeing our own death, she was seeing targets. While we were counting our last bullets, she was counting theirs. While we saw impossible odds, she saw a problem with a solution, Aiden finished, and then she solved it. They stood together in Harper's small room, looking at a photograph of someone who officially didn't exist, who had saved their lives, who had vanished like smoke. Outside, forward base Ironclad continued its routine. Soldiers trained, officers briefed. The war went on, indifferent to small miracles on distant ridges. But Viper Squad remembered. And somewhere in the Dry Spire Mountains, a woman with a rifle moved through the dark, watching over battles she'd never get credit for, saving soldiers who'd never learn her name. Where others saw darkness, she saw the path forward, and as long as she was watching, no one would walk it alone. The photograph stayed in Harper's footlocker for exactly 16 hours before Lieutenant Colonel Morrison's office called her in. She knew before she walked through the door, the way the admin specialist wouldn't meet her eyes, the way Morrison's aide stood just a little too close to the entrance, blocking casual exit, the way Morrison himself sat behind his desk with his hands folded, waiting. Specialist Harper. Morrison's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Have a seat. She sat, kept her spine straight, her face neutral. Infantry training, show nothing, admit nothing, survive the interrogation. Morrison opened a drawer, pulled out a manila envelope. No markings. Harper's stomach went cold. This arrived at your quarters yesterday morning, Morrison said. You want to tell me where it came from? No idea, sir. It was just there. Just there. On your bunk. Inside a secure military facility, past 3 checkpoints and armed guards, just appeared. Yes, sir. Morrison pulled out the photograph, laid it on the desk between them. The silhouette on the ridge stared back, eternal and anonymous. You showed this to your squad, Morrison said. It wasn't a question. Harper said nothing. The Fifth Amendment didn't apply in the military, but silence was still a weapon if you knew how to use it. Specialist, I'm going to explain something to you. Morrison leaned back in his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 40-some years. There are operations that happen in the dark. Quiet operations. Unofficial operations. Operations that save lives and win wars and never make it into any report. Ever. You understand? Yes, sir. These operations work because they stay dark. Because people like you don't take photographs and pass them around like trading cards. His voice hardened. Because when you're told something didn't happen, you accept that and move on. Even when it did happen, sir? Especially then. They stared at each other across the desk. Harper thought about Viper Squad bleeding out on that ridge, about Torres dying by inches, about counting final bullets and making peace with death, about a voice on the radio saying, "Hold your position, I'm cleaning house." She saved us, Harper said quietly. I know. Then why erase her? Morrison was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, tired, almost human. Because if she exists, people ask questions. Where did she come from? Who trained her? Who gave the order? And those questions lead to other questions, which lead to programs that can't be exposed, to operations that would cause international incidents, to capabilities we can't acknowledge. He tapped the photograph. She does her job because nobody knows she exists. The moment you make her real, you make her useless. Or worse, you make her a target. Harper absorbed that. So we pretend we saved ourselves. You held your ground against superior forces. That's not pretending. That's fact. We held for 12 minutes. Then she showed up. Then you got lucky with enemy morale. Happens sometimes in combat. Morrison stood, signaling the conversation was ending. This photograph gets destroyed. You tell your squad to forget what they saw. This conversation never happened. Are we clear? Harper wanted to argue, wanted to demand that the woman who'd saved their lives get the recognition she deserved, wanted to tell Morrison that erasing heroes was a special kind of evil, but she was a specialist talking to a lieutenant colonel, and the game was rigged from the start. Crystal clear, sir, Morrison nodded, picked up the photograph, fed it into a shredder beside his desk. The machine chewed it to confetti in 3 seconds. Dismissed. Harper stood, saluted, walked out with her spine straight and her hands steady, and the image of that silhouette burned into her memory where no shredder could reach it. Outside, Sergeant Cole was waiting. He took one look at her face and knew. They took it, destroyed it, right in front of me. And we're supposed to forget, move on, accept our commendations for tactical resilience, and shut up about ghost snipers who don't exist. Cole's jaw tightened. You tell the others? Not yet. Figured I'd let them have one more day believing the truth matters. They walked in silence through the base, past soldiers who hadn't almost died, past officers who didn't have to erase heroes to keep secrets safe. The late afternoon sun turned everything golden and peaceful, which felt like an insult. You think she knows, Harper asked, that they're erasing her? I think she doesn't care. I think she knew before she pulled that trigger that nobody would ever know her name. Cole stopped walking, and she did it anyway. That was the part that haunted Harper, not the impossible shots, not the tactical genius, the simple fact that someone could save 6 lives and disappear without needing credit, recognition, or even acknowledgement. What kind of person did that? What kind of training created someone who could operate completely alone, completely anonymous, completely content to be erased? Sergeant Cole, Specialist Harper. They both turned. The Captain Harper didn't recognize was approaching, mid-30s, nondescript face, the kind of officer who blended into backgrounds at official functions. His uniform was perfectly regulation but somehow forgettable. His name tape said Richards, but his eyes said something else entirely. "Sir." Cole came to attention. Harper followed. "At ease. Walk with me." Richards didn't wait for acknowledgement, just started moving toward the perimeter. They followed because that's what you did when captains gave informal orders that weren't really informal. Richards led them to a quiet corner of the base, near the vehicle depot, where the diesel engine noise would cover conversation. He lit a cigarette, against regulations, but nobody was around to care. "You've been asking about Raven," Richards said. Harper and Cole exchanged glances. Cole answered carefully. "Sir, we were told—" "You were told she doesn't exist. That's true. Officially." Richards took a long drag. "Unofficially, she's been active in this theater for 18 months. 12 confirmed interventions. Maybe more we don't know about. Ghost overwatch for operations that go sideways. She shows up, fixes the problem, vanishes. Nobody sees her face. Nobody learns her real name. Nobody puts her in a report." "Why are you telling us this?" Harper asked. "Because you almost died for your country, and you deserve to know that when you needed help, someone answered, even if that answer can never be official." He flicked ash. "Also because Morrison thinks intimidation works better than information." "I disagree." "Who is she?" Cole's voice was tight. "Where does she come from?" "Can't tell you that. Don't know most of it myself. What I do know, she's American. Special operations background, but not any unit you'd recognize. She volunteered for something experimental, something that takes the best shooters and turns them into something else. Solo operators, deep cover, deniable assets. That's not a program. That's a ghost story. This whole war is ghost stories, Sergeant. You just happen to be saved by one." Richards dropped his cigarette, ground it under his boot. "She'll keep operating, keep saving soldiers who will never know her name. And you'll keep your mouths shut about what you saw, because talking gets her killed. We clear?" "Why doesn't she just come in?" Harper asked. "Work officially. Get the credit and support and—" "Because official means oversight, means lawyers and rules of engagement and politicians second-guessing every shot. Unofficial means she can do what needs doing without asking permission." Richards met her eyes. "You were pinned down by 40 hostiles with armor support. Official channels would have debated authorization for fire support until you were corpses. She just started shooting. Which would you prefer?" Harper didn't answer. Didn't need to. Richards nodded. "Thought so. Forget this conversation happened. Forget you ever heard the name Raven. Go back to your squad and be grateful you're alive." He started to walk away, then paused. "One more thing. She chose to save you. Could have stayed hidden, let the situation play out, waited for someone more important. But she saw 6 soldiers about to die and decided that wasn't acceptable. Remember that, honor that, and never, ever speak it out loud." He disappeared into the diesel smoke, leaving them alone with knowledge they couldn't share and gratitude they couldn't express. Cole turned to Harper. "We tell the others?" "What would we tell them? That some captain we don't know confirmed something we're supposed to forget about someone who doesn't exist?" She laughed bitterly. "Morrison was right. The more we know, the more dangerous it gets. For her, for us. So we just let it go. We let it go." They stood together in the noise and the heat, 2 soldiers carrying a secret that was somehow both massive and completely meaningless. The truth wouldn't set anyone free. It would just get people killed. But 3 days later, another envelope appeared, this time on Cole's bunk. Inside, a different photograph. Not the silhouette on the ridge. This one showed the northern approach to their position from ground level. The angle suggested it was taken just after the battle, maybe minutes after the Black Hawk had lifted off. The foreground was sharp, spent brass casings scattered across rock, boot prints in loose scree, the slight depression where she'd positioned herself for that first impossible shot. But the background was what mattered. You could see Viper Squad's position from here, every piece of cover, every firing lane, every vulnerability. She'd had the high ground, perfect overwatch, complete situational awareness, and she'd used it to protect them with surgical precision. Handwritten on the back, "You held the line, I held the dark. Fair trade." Cole stared at it for a long time. Then he did what Morrison had ordered him not to do. He called the squad together and showed them. She's still watching, Santos said quietly. Isn't she? Maybe. Or maybe she's moved on to the next crisis, next squad that needs saving. Cole turned the photo over, reading the message again. Either way, she wants us to know she doesn't regret it, that we were worth saving. Of course we were worth saving, Price said, sounding offended. We're soldiers. Not everyone agrees, Webb cut in. You know how many operations go bad? How many squads get left behind because extraction is too risky or politically complicated? Command makes calculations, cost versus benefit. Sometimes the math doesn't work in your favor. He looked at the photo. She didn't do math. She just saw soldiers in trouble and fixed it. Harper was studying the brass casings in the image. Anyone notice these are match grade? Not military issue, custom loads. She's hand-loading her ammunition for maximum accuracy. How can you tell from a photo? The primer strikes. See how uniform they are? That's not mass production. That's someone who treats every round like it might save a life. Harper's voice carried professional respect. She's not just good. She's obsessive, perfectionist. Every detail matters because one mistake means someone dies. Torres spoke for the first time since getting out of medical. Her leg was still heavily bandaged, but she'd insisted on being present. We should find her, thank her. She saved my life specifically. I would have bled out if she hadn't bought time for the medics. We can't find her. Cole said it gently but firmly. That's the point. She stays hidden because hidden keeps her effective. We go looking, we compromise her, and next time some squad needs saving, she won't be there because we couldn't let it go. So we just accept it, take the gift and ask no questions? That's exactly what we do. Torres didn't like it. None of them did. But they understood. Being saved came with conditions. Silence was the price of survival. Cole took the photograph and added it to Harper's footlocker, which had become their unofficial archive of things that didn't exist. 2 images now, 2 pieces of evidence that would never reach official record. We keep these hidden, he said. No one outside this room sees them. If Morrison comes sniffing around again, we know nothing. Agreed? 6 voices. Agreed. They dispersed back to their duties, equipment maintenance, training rotations, the endless bureaucratic grind of military life. But something had changed. They moved differently now, looked at the mountains differently, understood that the dark held more than just enemies. That night, Cole couldn't sleep. He stood outside the barracks in the cold, looking north toward the Dry Spire Mountains. Somewhere out there, maybe she was watching. Maybe she was gone. Maybe she was saving someone else who'd never know her name. Sergeant? He turned. Morrison stood in the shadows, coffee mug in hand, looking almost human in the dim light. Sir? Can't sleep either? Morrison joined him at the railing. I remember my first real firefight. Couldn't close my eyes for a week without seeing it. That obvious? You're standing alone in the dark staring at mountains. Either you can't sleep or you're planning to desert. Morrison sipped his coffee. Another envelope showed up. Cole's stomach dropped. Sir, Relax. I'm not here to confiscate it. Morrison was quiet for a moment. You know what the worst part of my job is, Sergeant? Not the paperwork. Not the politics. It's having to erase the people who deserve recognition most. The ones who operate in the dark doing impossible things with no support and no acknowledgement. Then why do it? Because that's what keeps them alive. Recognition means exposure. Exposure means compromise. Compromise means they stop being effective or they end up dead. Morrison set his mug on the railing. You want to honor her? Fine. Keep her secret. That's the tribute she'd actually want. How do you know what she wants? Because I read the after-action reports. All of them. Every intervention she's made in 18 months. And you know what she never does? She never makes contact afterward, never asks for debrief, never requests acknowledgement. She completes mission and disappears. That tells me everything about what she values. Cole thought about the photographs, the messages. She contacted us. No, she sent you proof of what you already knew. That's different. She's not looking for gratitude. She's reminding you that you're not crazy, that what happened was real. That's a gift, Sergeant. Don't waste it by trying to dig deeper. They stood in silence, two soldiers on different rungs of the same broken ladder, both protecting a woman they'd never meet from a system that wanted to pretend she didn't exist. Permission to speak freely, sir? Granted. This is messed up. She saves lives and we have to pretend it didn't happen. That's not right. No, it's not, but it's necessary. Morrison picked up his mug. You think the enemy doesn't have intelligence services? Doesn't monitor our communications and reports? The moment we acknowledge her officially, she becomes a priority target. Every hostile force in theater starts hunting her, and she can't exactly call for backup if they find her. She handled 40 hostiles alone, because they didn't know she was there until she started shooting. Surprise is her biggest weapon. Take that away, and she's just one person with a rifle against armies. Morrison started toward the barracks, then stopped. She chose this life, Sergeant. Chose anonymity. Chose the dark. Honor that choice by keeping her secret. He disappeared inside, leaving Cole alone with the mountains and the stars, and the knowledge that heroism sometimes meant never being recognized as a hero. The next morning brought routine. Formation, briefing, equipment checks. Viper Squad moved through it mechanically, their bodies present but their minds elsewhere, until the briefing officer mentioned the Dry Spire Mountains. Intelligence indicates enemy forces have withdrawn from the northern sector. Unusual pattern. Normally they contest territory aggressively, but something spooked them. They're calling it the Ghost Ridge now, refusing to operate in that area. Cole and Harper exchanged glances. The officer continued, oblivious. Command wants a recon patrol to investigate. See if we can exploit their superstition. Viper Squad, you're familiar with the terrain. You'll lead the patrol. Sir, Cole stood. When do we deploy? 48 hours, full combat load. You'll be out there for 5 days, mapping enemy movement patterns and establishing observation posts. 5 days in the Dry Spire Mountains, where she might still be operating, where they might actually see her again, or where they might compromise her position by being too obvious about looking. After the briefing, Webb pulled Cole aside. You thinking what I'm thinking? That this is a terrible idea? That this is a chance to find answers? No. Cole's voice was sharp. We go out there, we do the mission, we keep our heads down. We don't go looking for her. We don't compromise her position. We don't get curious. Clear? Webb looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw Cole's expression and nodded reluctantly. Clear. But clear and easy were different things. 48 hours later, Viper Squad loaded into a Blackhawk. Different bird, same destination. Torres was still on medical, replaced temporarily by a corporal named Davis, who didn't know the history and didn't need to. The flight took them back into the mountains, back to terrain that had almost killed them, back to ridges that held secrets. Cole watched the landscape scroll past and tried not to scan for silhouettes on high ground. They landed at dawn, 2 clicks from their previous position. The pilot didn't linger, just dropped them fast and low and got out before the mountains could grab him. The rotors faded, replaced by wind and silence. Spread out. Cole checked his compass. We'll establish primary observation post on the eastern ridge. Harper, you and Santos take point. Webb, rear security. Davis, you're with me. Standard tactical column. They moved through the rocks like they'd been trained, slow, methodical, checking corners and scanning ridge lines. The mountains felt different in daylight, less menacing, more mundane, just rock and sky and the occasional hardy shrub clinging to impossible angles. Harper's hand went up. Stop signal. Cole moved forward, keeping low. Harper pointed to the ground. Brass casings, half buried in scree, easy to miss. Match-grade ammunition, custom loads. She'd been here. Maybe days ago, maybe hours. The casings were scattered in a rough line, multiple firing positions, exactly like she'd described in training doctrine. Never shoot twice from the same place. Sir? Davis was looking at the casings with confusion. These aren't ours. Wrong caliber. Who else is operating out here? Residual from the battle, Cole lied smoothly. Enemy sniper. We took him out. With what? We were pinned down. Air support. I thought there was no air support. That's why... Davis. Webb's voice carried warning. Focus on your sector. Stop asking questions. The corporal looked between them, clearly sensing something wrong, but he was smart enough to drop it. They continued moving, found more evidence of her presence, boot prints in soft earth, barely visible, rock scraped clean where she'd rested her rifle, a shallow depression where she'd gone prone for extended observation. Harper knelt beside the depression, measuring angles with her compass. Perfect overwatch position, clear sight lines to the valley, multiple escape routes. Textbook. She teaches textbook, Santos murmured. That's the scary part. Somewhere, someone trained her to this level, which means there might be more like her. The thought hung heavy. One ghost sniper was miracle enough. A program of them was terrifying. They established their observation post by midday, a reinforced position with good cover and excellent visibility. Professional, sustainable, exactly what command wanted. Cole assigned watch rotations, set communication schedules, prepared for 5 days of watching and waiting. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. Cole lay in his sleeping bag staring at stars that were somehow brighter up here, away from base lights and civilization. He found himself listening for sounds that wouldn't come. The crack of a distant rifle, the whisper of movement on stone. A voice on unauthorized frequencies saying, "Hold your position." Nothing. Day 2 brought the same. They rotated watches, logged vehicle movements in the valley below, sent encrypted reports to command. Professional, routine, boring. Day 3. Santos spotted movement on the northern ridge. Contact. Single individual. Range, 1,500 meters. She had the spotting scope pressed tight. Moving, slow, deliberate, checking the terrain. Cole felt his pulse quicken. Details. Small build, light pack, carrying, can't tell. Maybe a rifle case? Santos adjusted focus. Wait, they're stopping. Looking this way. Can you see a face? Negative, too far, but they're definitely observing our position. Harper was already on her rifle, scope trained on the figure. I've got them. Should I? No. Cole's hand pressed her barrel down. Stand down. They're not hostile. How do you know? Because if they were hostile, we'd already be dead. They watched the figure on the ridge, motionless now, a statue against the sky. Then, slowly, deliberately, the figure raised one hand, just a small gesture, acknowledgement, and vanished behind the rocks. What the hell was that? Davis demanded. Who was that? Scout, Webb said quickly. Friendly scout, checking our position. What scout? We're the only patrol in this sector. Special operations. They don't always coordinate. Webb's lie was smooth, practiced. Focus on your sector, Corporal. But Davis wasn't stupid. He looked between Cole, Harper, Santos, and Webb, saw the tension, the recognition, the shared knowledge. You know who that was. Silence. Sergeant Cole. Sir, you know who that was, and you're not telling me. Cole made a decision. Corporal Davis, you want the truth? Yes, sir. The truth is, we don't know. We think we know. We hope we know. But officially, definitively, we don't know. And more importantly, we don't ask. Because asking gets people killed. You understand? Davis processed that. That was her, wasn't it? The one who saved you. The ghost sniper everyone pretends doesn't exist. What ghost sniper? Cole's voice was flat. There is no ghost sniper. Official record says we held our ground through tactical resilience. That's what happened. That's what you'll say happened if anyone asks. But no buts, no questions, no investigation. You saw a scout, that's all. You write it in your log as unidentified friendly, if you write it at all, and you forget about it the moment we leave these mountains. Davis looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw the absolute certainty in Cole's expression and nodded slowly. Understood, sir. That night, Cole took first watch, sat in the dark with his rifle and his thoughts and his eyes on the northern ridge. She was still out there, still watching, still protecting, and they would never speak, never meet, never acknowledge what had passed between them except in anonymous photographs and brief glimpses across impossible distances. It should have felt wrong, incomplete, unsatisfying. Instead, it felt exactly right. Some debts couldn't be repaid, some gratitude couldn't be expressed. Some heroes operated best in the dark, unknown and unacknowledged. doing impossible work for people who would never learn their names. Cole understood that now. On their fifth day, as they prepared to extract, Harper found one final piece of evidence, a small cairn of stones arranged on the ridge. Not natural, deliberately placed. Inside, wrapped in waterproof fabric, another note. You came back. Good. The mountains remember courage. So do I. Stay safe. Stay sharp. The dark is always watching. Our Harper showed it to the others. They read it in silence, this final message from someone who didn't exist, acknowledging soldiers she'd never officially saved. We keep this one too? Santos asked. We keep this one too, Cole confirmed. They broke down their observation post, policed their brass, erased signs of their presence. Professional soldiers covering their tracks. When the Black Hawk came to extract them, they loaded efficiently and lifted off without ceremony. As they climbed away from the mountains, Cole looked down one last time. And there, barely visible, against the stone, a silhouette stood watching them go. He didn't wave, didn't signal, just watched in return. This silent communion between soldiers who understood that some bonds transcended recognition. The silhouette turned and disappeared into the rocks. Viper Squad flew home carrying secrets they'd never share, and gratitude they'd never express, and the absolute certainty that somewhere in the dark, someone was watching over soldiers who needed saving. The official report mentioned unidentified friendly scout. Command didn't ask questions. Morrison read it, nodded once, and filed it away with all the other truths that couldn't be spoken. And in the Dry Spire Mountains, a woman with a rifle moved to her next position, scanning for the next crisis, waiting for the next call that wouldn't come through official channels but would reach her anyway. Because that's what ghosts did. They watched, they waited, they saved, and they never ever asked for recognition. The Black Hawk was still 30 seconds from touching down at Forward Base Ironclad when Cole's radio crackled with emergency traffic. All units, this is Falcon 6 actual. We have troops in contact, Sector 7-9er. Multiple casualties. QRF is spinning up now. Viper actual. Divert immediately to Sector 7-9er for reinforcement. Cole keyed his mic. Falcon 6, Viper actual. We just completed a 5-day patrol. My squad needs resupply and... Negative Viper, Grizzly Company walked into an ambush. 30 soldiers pinned down. KIA and WIA mounting. Your closest asset. Divert now. The pilot was already banking hard, not waiting for Cole's confirmation. Through the window, Cole could see the forward base receding, replaced by mountains and valleys and the smoke of distant battle. What's our ETA? Cole asked. 12 minutes, the pilot shouted over the rotors. But I can't land hot. You'll have to fast rope in. Webb was already checking his gear. Fast rope into an active ambush. Great. Love that for us. Harper pulled extra magazines from her pack, redistributing ammunition. Santos checked her aid kit. Price looked pale but determined. Davis, the new corporal, was trying to control his breathing and failing. Listen up, Cole's voice cut through the cabin noise. Grizzly Company is good soldiers. If they're pinned, the enemy is professional and entrenched. We go in, we locate friendly positions, we provide covering fire and facilitate tactical withdrawal. We do not play hero. We do not take unnecessary risks. We get our people out. Clear? 5 voices. Clear. Davis said nothing. He was staring at his rifle like it might turn into a snake. Davis. Cole moved closer. You good? First real combat, sir. The observation post was just watching. And now it's shooting. You'll be fine. Stay close to Webb. Do what he does. You'll get through this. The corporal nodded, not looking convinced. The valley appeared below, and with it, the battle. Tracer fire arced across broken terrain. Mortar rounds walked through a narrow defile where Grizzly Company was trapped. The enemy had high ground on 3 sides, textbook kill box, pouring fire into soldiers who had nowhere to go. That's bad, the pilot said, which was military understatement for we're about to fly into hell. Can you get us close? Cole asked. Define close. Close enough that we don't get shot on the way down. No promises. The pilot dove, using terrain to mask their approach. The Black Hawk shuddered as they went low and fast, trading altitude for survival. 30 seconds. Get on the ropes. They clipped in. The crew chief kicked the fast ropes out the door. 60 feet of braided nylon dropped toward broken stone and enemy fire. Go! 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 Harper went first, disappeared out the door like she'd done it 1,000 times. Santos followed, then Price. Then Davis, who hesitated for half a second before Webb literally pushed him out. Cole went last. Grabbed the rope, felt the familiar burn through his gloves as he dropped. The ground rushed up. He hit hard, rolled, came up with his rifle already scanning for threats. The Black Hawk was already climbing away, rotors screaming, taking fire from at least 3 positions. A tracer round punched through the tail boom. The bird wobbled but kept flying, disappearing over the ridge. Viper Squad, rally on me! Cole moved toward the nearest cover, a jumble of boulders that provided some protection from the eastern ridge. His team materialized from the dust, all present, all functional. Except Davis, who was frozen in the open, staring at the carnage around him. Davis, move! The corporal didn't respond. Paralyzed. Combat shock. Happened sometimes to new soldiers when reality collided with training. Webb sprinted out, grabbed Davis by his plate carrier, and physically dragged him into cover. Rounds snapped past them, close enough to feel. They made it behind the boulder with inches to spare. Snap out of it! Webb shook the corporal hard. You freeze, you die. You die. I'm pissed. Don't make me pissed. Davis blinked, nodded. Some color returned to his face. There we go. Now get on that rifle and make yourself useful. Cole was already on the radio. Grizzly Actual, this is Viper Actual. We're on site. What's your status? Static. Then a voice, strained and desperate. Viper, this is Grizzly 2. Actual is KIA. We've got 15 WIA, unknown number KIA. We're pinned in the defile, taking fire from north, east, and south. We need immediate extract. Copy status. We're going to suppress enemy positions and cover your withdrawal. What's your ammo state? Critical. Most squads are down to final mags. Of course they were. Cole scanned the terrain with his optic, mapping the battlefield. Grizzly Company was stuck in a natural trench. Good cover from direct fire, but perfect target for mortars and plunging fire from elevated positions. The enemy controlled every advantage. Harper, I need targets. She was already scanning with her thermal scope. North Ridge has at least 2 machine gun positions. East has a mortar team. That's where most of the incoming is originating. South looks like dismounted infantry, maybe 20 strong, trying to flank. Can we suppress them? Not all of them, not with 6 rifles. Cole's mind raced through options, discarded them all. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely exposed. Standard tactics wouldn't work. They needed an advantage they didn't have. They needed a miracle. Or a ghost. The thought hit him like cold water. She was out here, somewhere. Maybe watching right now. Maybe calculating angles and wind drift and the best way to turn this disaster around. But you couldn't call a ghost, couldn't request her on official channels. She came when she decided to come, not before. Unless... Cole switched to the unauthorized frequency she'd used before, the one that technically didn't exist. He keyed his mic, knowing this was probably stupid, possibly treasonous, definitely against every protocol Morrison had warned him about. Raven, any station, this is Viper Actual on emergency frequency. We have 30 soldiers pinned in Sector 7-9er, multiple KIA and WIA. If you're listening, we could use that magic again. Static. He tried once more. Raven, we're outgunned and outpositioned. These are good soldiers. They don't deserve to die in a defile because we can't get them out. If you're out there, please. Nothing. Webb looked at him. You really think she's listening? I don't know, but I'm out of better ideas. Harper swore suddenly. Contact south. They're pushing the flank. The Southern Infantry Group had started moving, fire and maneuver, professional tactics, bounding from cover to cover while their support positions kept Grizzly suppressed. They'd be in assault range in minutes. Engage at will! Cole brought his rifle up, found a target, fired. The hostile dropped. He shifted to the next. We need to break their momentum. Viper Squad opened up with concentrated fire. Disciplined, professional. But 6 rifles against 20 was still bad math. They slowed the advance but couldn't stop it. The mortars kept falling. Each round claimed real estate in the defile, and Grizzly Company was running out of real estate fast. Grizzly 2, you need to move now, Cole shouted into the radio. Fighting withdrawal, back toward our position. We'll cover. Negative, Viper. Half my squad can't walk. We move, they die. You stay. Everyone dies. Before Grizzly could respond, a single rifle shot cracked from somewhere impossibly distant. The northern machine gunner, the one who'd been hammering Grizzly's position for the last 10 minutes, went silent. Just stopped. Completely. Cole's heart jumped. Harper, did you? Wasn't me. Wasn't any of us. Another shot. The second northern machine gun position went quiet. She's here, Santos breathed. She heard you. Cole switched back to the unauthorized frequency. Raven, Viper Actual, good shooting. What do you need from us? The response came immediately, her voice calm and clinical. Hold the southern advance. I'll clear the high ground. Extract Grizzly when I signal. Raven out. That was it. No questions. No coordination. Just a plan delivered with absolute confidence. You heard the woman. Cole shifted his fire to the southern group. Light them up. Don't let them close. Viper Squad concentrated their fire. The southern advance stalled, hostiles diving for cover as precision shots found flesh. Davis was firing now too, his paralysis broken by necessity and the simple fact that his friends needed him. On the high ground, the invisible sniper went to work. The Eastern Mortar team, the one causing the most damage, took 3 rounds in rapid succession. First the spotters, then the gun crew. Then someone must have tried to run because there was a 4th shot, and after that, silence. Harper was tracking it all through her thermal scope, watching a masterclass in long-range elimination. She's moving between positions, never shoots twice from the same place. I can barely track her movement, and I know where to look. Another shot. A hostile officer on the southern flank, the one coordinating their assault, collapsed mid-gesture. The advance lost cohesion immediately, soldiers uncertain without leadership. Cole seized the opportunity. Grizzly 2, this is Viper. Start moving your wounded back, now, while they're confused. Copy. Moving now. Through his optic, Cole watched Grizzly Company begin their withdrawal. Slow, painful. Soldiers carrying soldiers, every movement bought with pain and blood and determination. They were exposed, vulnerable, perfect targets, but nobody shot them. Because on the ridgelines, Raven was eliminating anyone who tried. A hostile raised his rifle toward the retreating soldiers, dropped before he could fire. Another tried to reposition for a better angle. Never made it. A third attempted to set up a light machine gun for plunging fire into Grizzly's withdrawal route. The gun was halfway positioned when the shooter simply folded over it. She's protecting the withdrawal corridor, Harper said, awed. Every single threat to those soldiers she's neutralizing before they can shoot. How is she calculating this? The angles, the timing, the priority targets? Because that's what she does, Webb said simply. This is her whole life, every shot, every breath. This. The southern assault completely collapsed. With their officer down and their support position silent, the remaining hostiles broke contact and retreated. Professional soldiers knew when odds shifted from difficult to impossible. Cole watched them go, then keyed his radio. Raven, southern threat is withdrawing. What's your status? North and east are clear. You're secure for extract. Get your people out. Copy. Raven. Thank you. No response. She was already moving to her next position, her next overwatch, her next silent vigil. Grizzly Company staggered into Viper's position, exhausted, bloodied, but alive. 15 wounded, 8 confirmed KYA that they'd managed to bring out. Another dozen missing, probably dead in the defile. The acting commander was a lieutenant who looked about 19 and completely shell-shocked. His name tape said Morrison. No relation to the colonel, probably, but the coincidence made Cole's jaw tighten. You saved us, the lieutenant said numbly. 6 soldiers against that many hostiles, and you saved us. We had help, Cole said. From where? I didn't see any other units. You wouldn't. She doesn't like being seen. The lieutenant started to ask another question, but medical Blackhawks were already inbound, their rotors thundering across the valley. Medics jumped out before the birds fully touched down, triaging wounded with brutal efficiency. Critical patients first, the lead medic was shouting. Ambulatory wounded next. Everyone else, you're waiting. Cole helped load stretchers. Watched good soldiers lifted into birds that would fly them to field hospitals, where other good people would try to put them back together. Some would make it, some wouldn't. That was the math of war, cruel and indifferent. The last Black Hawk lifted off with the final wounded. The valley fell quiet except for wind and the occasional crackle of burning equipment. Sir? Davis approached, his rifle held properly now, his eyes clearer. That voice on the radio, the one who cleared the high ground. That was her, wasn't it? The ghost sniper. Cole looked at the corporal. Saw himself 3 weeks ago. A soldier who believed official reports and didn't ask uncomfortable questions. That version of him was gone now, replaced by someone who knew the truth lived in the spaces between official words. What ghost sniper? Cole said quietly. Official record will say we provided covering fire and Grizzly Company executed a tactical withdrawal. That's what happened. But sir, that's what happened. Cole's voice carried finality. You write anything else in your report? You compromise operational security. You compromise assets in the field. You get people killed. So you write what I just told you, exactly as I told you, and you never speak about this again. Clear? Davis absorbed that. What if someone asks who cleared the machine gun positions? The mortars? The officer? You say you don't know. Fog of war, confusion of battle. Could have been anything. Ricochet, equipment malfunction, enemy-friendly fire. You just know the shooting stopped, and you got your people out. Cole put a hand on the corporal's shoulder. I know you want to understand. I know you want answers, but sometimes the best thing you can do for the people who save your life is pretend they were never there. The corporal looked toward the ridgelines. She's still up there. Probably. Does she ever come down? Ever talk to anyone? Not that I've seen. How does she live like that? Alone in the mountains, no support, no recognition, no... That's not our concern, Corporal. Our concern is getting back to base and filing accurate reports that don't get people killed. Davis nodded slowly, learning the shape of necessary lies. Welcome to the real war, kid. Webb appeared, his uniform filthy with dust and someone else's blood. Extraction bird is inbound, 5 minutes. Roger. Get everyone staged for pickup. The squad moved with tired efficiency, gathering weapons and checking ammunition. They'd burned through most of their combat load. Harper had 2 magazines left. Santos had 3. Price was down to his last partial mag. We got lucky, Santos said quietly. Again. It wasn't luck, Harper corrected. She was watching, waiting. We called. She answered. You really think she monitors that frequency? Just sits up there listening in case someone needs help? I think she does exactly what she's trained to do, and part of that training is staying informed about friendly operations in her sector. Harper stared at the northern ridge. She knew we were out there on patrol, knew Grizzly was operating nearby, probably tracked both operations and positioned herself where she could respond to whichever one went bad. That's paranoid. No, that's professional. The extraction Black Hawk appeared over the ridge, approached fast, and landed in a storm of rotor wash. They loaded quickly. No ceremony, no conversation. The bird lifted and Cole took one last look at the valley. 30 soldiers alive because one woman with a rifle had decided their lives mattered more than her anonymity. Back at Forward Base Ironclad, the debriefing was immediate and exhaustive. Cole sat across from Morrison again. Same desk, same stern expression, same sense of watching words get weaponized. Your report, Sergeant. Morrison slid a tablet across. Preliminary version. Read it and tell me if it's accurate. Cole read. It was accurate in the way official reports were accurate, technically true, while completely missing the actual truth. Viper Squad responded to emergency. Provided covering fire. Enabled Grizzly Company withdrawal. Enemy broke contact due to mounting casualties and loss of command structure. No mention of precision fire from elevated positions. No mention of machine gun crews eliminated at impossible range. No mention of a voice on unauthorized frequencies coordinating the whole operation. It's accurate, sir. Good. Sign it. Cole signed, watched his words become official record, watched the truth get buried again under necessary lies. Morrison took the tablet back. Grizzly's lieutenant wants to put you and your squad in for commendations. Says you saved 30 lives with a 6-man element against superior forces. We did our job, sir. Yes, you did. Morrison's expression softened slightly. You also called for support on an unauthorized frequency, using a call sign that doesn't exist, to request assistance from an asset that officially isn't there. Cole's stomach dropped. Sir, Relax, Sergeant. I'm not filing charges. I'm pointing out that you're getting smarter about how this works. Morrison leaned back. She responded, didn't she? I don't know what you mean, sir. Right, of course you don't. The colonel almost smiled. 30 soldiers are alive tonight. That's what matters. How they got that way? Well, that's classified above both our pay grades. Why do you let it continue, sir? If you know about her, if you have the authority to acknowledge her. I don't have that authority. Nobody does. She operates outside the chain of command precisely because the chain of command is slow, political, and risk-averse. Morrison stood, walked to his window overlooking the base. You know how many requests for fire support get denied every day? How many missions get canceled because lawyers can't sign off on rules of engagement? How many soldiers die waiting for permission to be saved? Cole said nothing. She doesn't wait for permission. She sees a problem. She fixes it. That makes her illegal, unauthorized, and completely invaluable. Morrison turned back. So yes, I know about her. Yes, I protect her. And yes, I bury every piece of evidence that might expose her. Because the moment she's official, she's useless. You understand? I understand, sir. Do you? Because you used an emergency frequency to call her. That frequency is monitored by intelligence, by command, by people who would very much like to know who's using it. Cole's blood went cold. Sir, I didn't think... No, you didn't. You were desperate and you made a call. It worked. This time. But now there are people asking questions. People who want to know who responded to your request. People who have resources and authority to find answers. What do I tell them? Nothing. You tell them nothing. You stick to your official report. You know nothing about any voice on unauthorized frequencies, just radio chatter. Could have been anyone. Confusion of battle. Morrison's voice hardened. And you never ever use that frequency again. You compromised her once. Don't do it twice. But what if another unit needs help? What if soldiers are dying? What if you could save them by calling her? Morrison shook his head. Then they die, Sergeant. Because protecting one asset who can save hundreds is more important than saving dozens who might die in any given engagement. It's ugly math, but it's correct math. Cole wanted to argue. Wanted to say that every life mattered, that you didn't sacrifice soldiers for operational security, that there had to be another way. But he'd been in the military long enough to know that sometimes there wasn't another way. Sometimes the best you could do was make the least terrible choice and live with the consequences. Understood, sir. Good. Dismissed. Cole stood, saluted. Reached the door before Morrison spoke again. Sergeant, off the record. Cole turned. She's been active for 18 months. In that time, she's intervened in 14 engagements, saved an estimated 200 soldiers. 0 friendly casualties during her interventions. 0. Morrison's expression was unreadable. Whatever she is, whatever program created her, it works. My job is to make sure it keeps working. Your job is to not screw that up by being clever. We clear? Crystal, sir. Then get some rest. You've earned it. Cole left, found his squad waiting outside, their faces asking questions they knew better than to voice. We good? Webb asked. We're good. Official report is filed. No issues. And her? There is no her. There never was. We got lucky with enemy morale and good tactical positioning. That's the story. They walked back to their barracks in silence. Inside, Cole found another envelope on his bunk. This one contained no photograph. Just a note, handwritten in the same precise script. You called. I answered. That's the deal. But don't call again. Next time, handle it yourselves. You're better than you think. The mountains are getting crowded. Too many people asking questions. Too many eyes looking for patterns. I'm going quiet for a while. Don't worry. I'm still watching. Cole read it twice, then showed the others. She's pulling back, Santos said quietly, because we're compromising her. Because I'm compromising her, Cole corrected bitterly. I used that frequency without thinking about consequences. You saved 30 soldiers, and maybe exposed the one person who can keep saving soldiers. Great trade. Harper took the note. She says she's going quiet, not gone, just less visible. How do you go less visible than invisible? Price asked. You stop responding to calls, stop intervening. Let situations play out naturally, even when you could fix them. Harper's voice was heavy. She's choosing operational security over active protection, because we forced her to. The weight of that settled over them. 30 soldiers saved. But how many future soldiers might die because Raven had to go deeper underground, become even more cautious, limit her interventions to avoid exposure? The math was ugly. Morrison was right about that. So what do we do? Davis asked. He'd earned the right to be part of this conversation. Combat did that. We do our jobs better, Cole said firmly. She said it herself. We're better than we think. So we get better. We train harder. We execute smarter. We become the kind of soldiers who don't need rescuing. Nobody's that good, Webb said. Then we get as close as we can. Because that's what she deserves from us. Not gratitude, not recognition, just competence. Just soldiers who can handle their own fight so she's not constantly cleaning up our mistakes. It was harsh. It was also true. They spent that night cleaning weapons, checking gear, preparing for the next mission, professional soldiers doing professional work. But something had shifted. They moved with more precision, more focus, more awareness that somewhere in the dark, someone might be watching, and they wanted to be worth watching. 3 weeks passed. Viper Squad ran patrols, executed missions, maintained their sector, professional, competent. They didn't call for her, didn't use unauthorized frequencies, didn't look for silhouettes on ridgelines. And she didn't appear. The mountains felt emptier somehow, like a presence had withdrawn, leaving only stone and wind and soldiers who suddenly felt very alone. Then Lieutenant Morrison, the young one from Grizzly Company, appeared at their barracks. Sergeant Cole, I need to speak with you, privately. They walked to a quiet corner of the base. Morrison looked nervous, kept glancing around like he expected to be overheard. Sir? Cole prompted. I've been asking questions about that day, about who really cleared those machine gun positions. Morrison met his eyes. Intelligence says it was precision fire from elevated positions. Multiple shooters, they think. Maybe a sniper team we didn't know about. Intelligence is wrong, sir. It was enemy confusion and good tactical. Please don't. I was there. I saw what happened. One by one, every threat to my company was eliminated with surgical precision. That's not luck. That's not enemy confusion. That's someone very good doing exactly what they're trained to do. Cole said nothing. I want to thank them, Morrison continued. Whoever they are. My soldiers, 30 people, got to go home because someone I've never met decided we were worth saving. How do I thank them? You can't, sir. Why not? Because they don't want thanks. They want you to take those 30 soldiers and turn them into the kind of unit that doesn't need rescuing. That's the tribute they'd value. Not gratitude. Excellence. Morrison absorbed that. You've thought about this. I've had time. Do you know who they are? Cole chose his words carefully. I know that asking questions gets people killed. I know that some operations work best in the dark. And I know that the smartest thing we can do is accept the gift we were given and honor it by being better soldiers. The lieutenant stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Understood. Thank you, Sergeant. He walked away, leaving Cole alone with the weight of necessary silence. That night, one final envelope appeared. Not on Cole's bunk this time. On Morrison's desk. The colonel, not the lieutenant. He showed it to Cole the next morning. Inside, a list of names. The 30 soldiers from Grizzly Company who'd survived the ambush. Handwritten, precise. And at the bottom, remember them. They're why I do this. No signature. No explanation. Just a reminder that somewhere in the dark, someone was keeping score. Someone cared about names and lives and the simple fact that soldiers deserved to go home. Morrison looked at the list for a long time, then filed it away in a drawer Cole suspected held other secrets, other truths that couldn't be spoken. "She's still out there," Morrison said quietly. "Yes, sir." "Still watching?" "Yes, sir." "And we're never going to acknowledge her?" "No, sir." Morrison nodded. "Good. That's how it should be. That's how she stays alive long enough to keep doing this." He dismissed Cole. But as the sergeant reached the door, Morrison spoke one last time. "Tell your squad. They did good work out there. Professional, competent. The kind of work that makes oversight less necessary. Keep that standard." Cole understood. "Be good enough that she doesn't have to risk herself saving you." "We will, sir." And they would, because somewhere in the Dry Spire Mountains, a woman with a rifle was watching, waiting, ready to save soldiers who needed her, but hoping, always hoping, that they'd be good enough not to need saving at all. That was the real tribute, the real honor, not gratitude or recognition, just excellence. Just soldiers who understood that the greatest gift they could give their silent guardian was to become soldiers who didn't need guarding. 6 weeks later, Captain Richards appeared at morning formation with orders that made Cole's stomach drop. "Sergeant Cole, Specialist Harper, you're both reassigned effective immediately. Report to Building 7 with full field gear. Your wheels up in 90 minutes. Building 7 was intelligence, the kind of place where questions got asked and answers got classified. Cole had never been inside, never wanted to be. "Sir, what's this about?" Cole asked carefully. "Above my pay grade, Sergeant. Just go." They went. Harper looked as nervous as Cole felt. Building 7 was unmarked, windowless, guarded by soldiers who checked IDs 3 times before allowing entry. Inside, the air was cold and the lighting harsh. A specialist led them down corridors that seemed to go on forever, past doors marked with alphanumeric codes that meant nothing to Cole. They stopped at a conference room. The specialist knocked once, opened the door, and gestured them inside. The room held a table, 6 chairs, and 3 people who made Cole's instincts scream danger. The first was a woman in her 50s, civilian clothes, posture that screamed federal agent. Her ID badge said Sarah Chen, Defense Intelligence Agency. The second was a colonel Cole didn't recognize, his uniform showing combat patches from places that were supposed to be peaceful. Name tape, Reyes. The third was Morrison, the lieutenant colonel from base command. He looked uncomfortable, which made Cole even more nervous. "Sergeant Cole, Specialist Harper." Chen gestured to chairs. "Sit." They sat. Chen opened a folder, slid a photograph across the table. It showed the northern ridge from the first engagement, the one where Viper Squad had almost died. The angle was aerial, probably satellite. "Recognize this location?" Chen asked. "Yes, ma'am. Sector 47, where my squad was engaged 6 weeks ago." "Tell me about that engagement." Cole recited the official report from memory. "Enemy contact. Superior forces. Tactical defense. Enemy withdrew due to casualties and loss of command structure." Chen listened without expression. When he finished, she slid another photograph across. This one showed spent brass casing scattered on stone, match-grade ammunition, custom loads. These were found at the location 3 days after your engagement, during a reconnaissance sweep. Chen's voice was flat. "Can you explain them?" "No, ma'am. Enemy sniper, possibly." The ballistics don't match any known enemy weapon. They match a very specific rifle, one that's not issued to regular military forces. She slid another photo. This one shows boot prints, size 7, female, leading to and from multiple firing positions arranged for optimal overwatch of your squad's location. Harper's face was carefully neutral. Cole kept his breathing steady. "Someone was up there," Chen continued. "Someone with professional training, custom ammunition, and explicit knowledge of your tactical situation. Someone who engaged enemy forces with precision fire and enabled your survival. Who was it?" "I don't know, ma'am." "You're lying." "Ma'am, I was under fire, in the dark, multiple enemy positions engaging us. I can't account for every round fired in that valley." Colonel Reyes spoke for the first time. "Sergeant, we're not trying to jam you up. We're trying to understand what happened. Because whatever happened, it's happened 13 other times across this theater. Engagements where friendly forces were about to be overrun, then suddenly enemy positions started getting eliminated by precision fire from unknown locations. Always the same pattern, always the same signature, always the same ghost. I don't know anything about that, sir. You called her. Chen's voice was sharp. On an unauthorized frequency. We have the recording. Raven, this is Viper Actual. We need that magic again. Your words, your voice. Cole's blood went cold. They'd been monitoring the frequency, recording, building a case. Ma'am, I was desperate. My squad was dying. I called on every frequency I could think of, hoping someone would respond. And someone did. A woman. Call sign Raven. She coordinated your defensive fire and eliminated multiple enemy positions with long-range precision shooting. Then she vanished without reporting to command, without filing any documentation, without existing in any official capacity. Chen leaned forward. Who is she? I don't know. Sergeant Cole, this is a lawful order. Identify the individual who intervened in your engagement. Cole met her eyes. Ma'am, with respect, I cannot identify someone I never saw, never met, and whose existence I cannot confirm beyond a voice on a radio during a combat situation. You're protecting her. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know who she is. Morrison spoke quietly from the corner. Agent Chen, the sergeant's report was thorough and consistent. He's not lying. He simply doesn't have the information you're requesting. Chen's expression hardened. Colonel Morrison, your continued protection of this asset is noted, but this investigation supersedes your authority. What investigation? Morrison's voice carried warning. Investigation into what? A series of successful engagements where American soldiers survived against superior odds? Investigation into an unsanctioned operator conducting military action without authorization, oversight, or accountability. Chen shifted her attention to Harper. Specialist Harper, you have a thermal scope. You observed the engagement. What did you see? Harper chose her words carefully. I saw thermal signatures consistent with enemy forces. I saw those signatures go down. I saw my squad survive. Ma'am, it was dark, chaotic, and I was focused on keeping my team alive. I can't provide detailed analysis of every hostile killed. Did you see the shooter? I saw a thermal signature, small, fast, moving between positions. And you concluded it was female. I hypothesized based on size and movement patterns, but I never had visual confirmation. Chen pulled out another document. You told your squad you thought it was a woman. Those were your exact words, according to 3 separate witness statements. Someone had talked. Someone from Viper Squad had given up details during routine debriefing, probably without realizing they were building a case. Yes, ma'am. I hypothesized. I was wrong to speculate. Were you? Because the boot prints are female. The build based on gear impressions in the stone is female. The pattern of elimination suggests someone with extensive counter-sniper training, which narrows the field considerably. Chen's eyes were hard. There are only 7 female snipers in the U.S. military with the training and skill to execute what we saw in that valley. We've accounted for 6. The 7th has been missing for 18 months. Cole kept his expression neutral, but his mind was racing. Missing, not dead, not discharged. Missing, which meant she'd been active military before becoming a ghost. Her name was Captain Elena Vasquez. Chen slid a personnel photo across the table. Decorated Marine sniper, 3 combat tours, instructor at the Scout Sniper School, volunteered for a classified program 18 months ago and subsequently disappeared from all official records. The photograph showed a woman in her early 30s, dark hair pulled back, eyes that looked straight through the camera, with the flat effect of someone who'd seen too much death. Professional, competent, dangerous, and somehow familiar, even though Cole had never seen her face. What program? Cole asked before he could stop himself. That's classified above your clearance. Reyes answered. What matters is she's operating without authorization in active combat zones. That makes her a security risk. A security risk that saved 200 soldiers, Morrison said sharply. You want to call that a problem? Those soldiers and their families might disagree. Those soldiers and their families don't get to make strategic decisions about unsanctioned operations. Chen's voice was ice. Captain Vasquez is a loose element. No oversight, no rules of engagement, no accountability. She could be compromised, could be operating under foreign influence, could be conducting unauthorized assassinations and disguising them as combat support. That's ridiculous, Harper said, then caught herself. Ma'am. Is it? How do you know? You've never met her, never debriefed her, never confirmed her loyalty or intentions. For all you know, she's eliminating enemy officers we might have interrogated, destroying intelligence we might have gathered, conducting operations that undermine strategic objectives. Chen closed her folder. She needs to be brought in, debriefed, properly assessed, and either reintegrated into official channels or dealt with. Dealt with, Cole repeated. You mean arrested? I mean secured, one way or another. The room went silent. Cole could hear his own heartbeat, could feel Harper's tension beside him, could see Morrison's jaw tightening. You want us to help you find her, Cole said slowly. That's why we're here. Correct. You've had contact with her, multiple times. You know her patterns, her methods, possibly her location. You're going to help us bring her in. And if we refuse, then you're obstructing a federal investigation and subject to court-martial. Chen's expression didn't change. This isn't a request, Sergeant. It's an order. Cole looked at Morrison. The colonel's face was carefully neutral, but his eyes said, be careful. Ma'am, even if I wanted to help, I don't know how to find her. She contacts us. We don't contact her. The one time I tried calling on that frequency, I was told never to do it again by her. She made it clear she operates independently. Then we'll make her want to contact you. Reyes pulled out a tactical map. You're going back to the Dry Spire Mountains, extended patrol, 2 weeks. You'll be bait. She watches over operations in her sector. If you're out there long enough, she'll make contact. When she does, you'll signal us. We'll move in and secure her. Clean. Simple. You're asking us to betray someone who saved our lives. I'm ordering you to assist in securing an unsanctioned asset who poses a strategic risk. Rhea's voice hardened. Your feelings about that are irrelevant. Harper spoke up, her voice tight with controlled anger. Sir, with respect, she's not an asset. She's a soldier. One who's been doing her job in the worst possible conditions with zero support. You want to bring her in? Fine. But call it what it is. You're hunting someone who's been protecting your people because she makes you uncomfortable. Specialist, I suggest you watch your tone. I suggest you recognize that 200 soldiers are alive because of her, and now you want to repay that by turning her into a target. Chen stood. This conversation is over. You have your orders. Report for mission briefing at 0600 tomorrow. You deploy the day after. Dismissed. Cole and Harper stood, saluted, walked out of that cold room with their orders and their consciences and the terrible knowledge that they were being forced to hunt the person who'd saved them. Outside, Morrison caught up with them. My office, now. They followed him across base to his building. Inside his office, Morrison closed the door, pulled the blinds, and turned to face them. They're making a mistake, he said without preamble. Chen and Reyes, they're intelligence and career officers. They see everything through the lens of control and accountability. They don't understand that some operations work precisely because they're uncontrolled. Sir, are you telling us to disobey orders? Cole asked carefully. I'm telling you to think very carefully about what happens if you succeed, if you help them capture Captain Vasquez. Morrison poured himself coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. She gets debriefed, probably at a black site. They'll want to know everything, her methods, her support network, her intelligence sources. They'll classify her as a security risk and either lock her in a cell or make her disappear permanently. You mean kill her? I mean remove her from the board. One way or another she stops operating, and the next time a squad like yours is pinned down with no support, there's no ghost on the ridge to save them. They just die. Morrison set his mug down hard. 200 soldiers alive. That's her record. How many will die when she's gone? Harper was staring at the floor. So what do we do? Refuse the mission and face court-martial? No. You execute the mission exactly as ordered. Morrison met their eyes. You go to the mountains. You conduct your patrol. You follow every regulation and protocol. And if Captain Vasquez happens to be too smart to make contact with an obvious trap, well, that's just unfortunate, isn't it? Cole understood. You're telling us to fail. I'm telling you to execute your mission professionally and by the book. If the objective proves unattainable, that's not your fault. Morrison's voice dropped. But you need to understand something. Chen and Reyes, they're not going to stop. If you fail, they'll send someone else. Someone who might actually succeed. Someone who won't have moral complications about bringing her in. Then what's the point? The point is buying time. Every day she's free is another day she can keep doing what she does. Every failed attempt to capture her makes the case stronger that she's too valuable to eliminate. You make them chase ghosts long enough, maybe they decide the effort isn't worth the result. It was a long shot, a desperate play. But it was something. Sir, Harper said quietly, why are you helping her? You could advance your career by cooperating. Instead, you're risking everything to protect someone you've never met. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried weight from old wounds. 20 years ago, I was a lieutenant in a place I can't name, leading a patrol that walked into an ambush. 40 hostiles. My radio was dead. My platoon was getting torn apart. We were going to die. He stared at something they couldn't see. Then someone started shooting from a ridge we'd thought was clear. Precision fire. Eliminated the ambush piece by piece. We made it out. 18 soldiers alive who should have been dead. Raven? Cole asked. Different person. Different war. Same principle. Morrison focused on them again. That sniper was never identified. Never acknowledged. Just saved my life and disappeared. For 20 years I've wondered who they were. If they survived. If they kept doing that impossible work. And I swore if I ever had the chance to protect someone like that, I would. Elena Vasquez isn't that person. No, but she's cut from the same cloth, and she deserves better than to be hunted by the people she's been protecting. Morrison walked to his desk, pulled out a slip of paper with a frequency written on it. This is a secure channel, not monitored by Chen's people. If you need to communicate anything sensitive, use this. Cole took the paper. You're giving us a lot of rope, sir. I'm giving you the tools to do the right thing. How you use them is your choice. Morrison opened the door. You're dismissed. Get some rest. You deploy in 36 hours. They left. Walked across base in silence, processing everything they'd learned. Elena Vasquez, Marine captain, Scout Sniper School instructor, missing for 18 months, operating alone in the mountains, saving soldiers, staying hidden. Back at the barracks, they found the rest of Viper Squad waiting. Webb, Santos, Price. Even Torres, her legs still bandaged but healing. They'd heard about the reassignment, the intelligence briefing, the orders. Well? Webb asked. What do they want? Cole told them everything. The investigation, the photographs, the personnel file, the orders to lure Raven into a trap. That's bullshit, Santos said flatly. They want to arrest someone for saving lives? They want control, Harper corrected. She operates outside their authority. That makes her dangerous. To them. Torres spoke from her bunk, her voice still weak but clear. Are you going to do it? Help them capture her? Cole thought about Morrison's words. About 200 saved soldiers. About the next squad that might die without her watching. We're going to execute our mission professionally and by the book, he said carefully. If we happen to be unsuccessful in locating the target, that's just operational outcome. They understood. Webb actually smiled. So we're going to the mountains to not find her. We're going to the mountains to conduct a patrol. What we find or don't find is up to the operational environment. Price looked confused. Wait, are we trying to fail? We're trying to succeed at not getting anyone killed, Harper explained, including the person who saved our lives. That's success enough. They spent the next day preparing. Full combat load. 2 weeks of supplies. Communication equipment that would definitely be monitored by Chen's intelligence team. They'd be under observation from the moment they deployed. Every movement tracked. Every communication analyzed. The morning of deployment, Morrison pulled Cole aside one final time. Remember, Sergeant, professional execution. By the book. If Captain Vasquez is as good as her record suggests, she'll recognize the trap from a distance. Your job is to make it look good while giving her every opportunity to stay invisible. And if she makes contact anyway, if she doesn't recognize the trap, Morrison's expression was grim, then you have a choice to make. Follow orders and destroy someone who deserves better, or refuse orders and face the consequences. He paused. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. Whatever choice you make, I'll support it, even if it costs me my career. Why, sir? Because some things matter more than careers, like making sure the people who save lives don't get punished for it. Morrison straightened. Good luck, Sergeant. Come back safe. The Black Hawk lifted off at 0800, carrying Viper Squad and their impossible mission into the mountains. The pilot was different, probably one of Chen's people, reporting their every movement. The crew chief watched them with barely concealed suspicion. They were under surveillance from every angle. This wasn't a patrol. It was theater. They landed 2 clicks from their previous engagement site. The helicopter departed immediately, and they were alone in the vast silence of the Dry Spire Mountains. Spread out, Cole ordered, knowing his words were being transmitted and analyzed. Standard tactical formation. We're here to map enemy movement patterns and establish observation posts. They moved through terrain that felt haunted by memory. The ridge where she'd fired from, the valley where they'd almost died, the rocks still scarred by bullets and mortars and the violence of that night. Harper found more brass casings, match grade, custom loads. She looked at Cole with a question in her eyes. Should we report this? He nodded. They had to make it look real. Viper actual to base. Found additional evidence of previous sniper activity at grid reference. He gave the coordinates. Matches previous findings. Continuing patrol. Copy, Viper actual. The voice was professional, neutral, but Cole knew Chen was listening, plotting, triangulating. They set up their first observation post on the eastern ridge. Professional. By the book. Exactly what the mission called for. But Cole positioned their defensive perimeter with clear gaps, approaches that a skilled operator could use to observe them without being detected. If she was watching, she'd see the trap. She'd see the surveillance. She'd stay away. At least that's what he hoped. Night fell. They rotated watches. Cole took second shift, sitting in the dark with his night vision and his thoughts and the growing certainty that they were being played by forces larger than themselves. His radio crackled. Viper actual, this is Overwatch 6, Chen's voice. We're observing your position via satellite. Maintain current posture. If target makes contact, signal immediately via code word Lighthouse. Acknowledge. Copy Overwatch. Lighthouse acknowledged. So they were watching from space. Infrared satellites, probably. Tracking heat signatures. Looking for anomalies. For a woman moving through the mountains with a rifle. She had to know. Had to recognize the pattern. She was too smart, too experienced to miss it. 3 days passed. They conducted their patrol with professional precision. Found more evidence of her previous presence. Firing positions, brass casings. The occasional boot print. Reported everything to Chen, building the case that she'd been here while simultaneously hoping she was long gone. On day 4, Harper found something different. Sergeant, you need to see this. It was another cairn, similar to the one from their previous patrol. Inside, wrapped in waterproof fabric, a note. I see the trap. I see the watchers. I see what they're making you do. Don't feel bad. You're just soldiers following orders. I understand orders, but you should understand something too. I'm not coming in. Not willingly. Not ever. If they send people to take me, people will die. I don't want that. But I won't surrender. Tell your intelligence friends to stop looking. Tell them I'll keep doing my job if they let me. Tell them the cost of capturing me is higher than the benefit. And tell Morrison thank you for everything. EV. Cole read it 3 times. She knew Morrison was protecting her, knew exactly what was happening, knew they were trying to help her stay free, and she was drawing a line. Capture meant war. Do we report this? Harper asked quietly. Cole thought about Chen's demands, about Morrison's warning, about 200 soldiers who deserved to keep their guardian angel. He pulled out his lighter, held the flame to the note. Report what? He said as the paper caught fire. We found another cairn, some rocks, nothing else. Harper smiled slightly. Copy that, Sergeant. They continued the patrol. 8 more days of searching for someone who was too smart to be found. 8 more days of reporting movement patterns and terrain analysis, and absolutely nothing about the ghost they were supposed to capture. Chen grew frustrated, demanded better results, threatened to insert her own teams. "Ma'am," Cole reported on day 10, "Target has clearly vacated this sector. If she was ever here, she's moved on. We're not going to find her sitting still and waiting for us." "Then expand your search grid." "With respect, ma'am, these mountains cover hundreds of square kilometers. We could search for months and never make contact. Unless you want to flood this entire region with troops, which would definitely drive her away, tactical patrol isn't going to work." Silence on the other end. Then, "Maintain position. We're reassessing approach." Translation, they were giving up. For now. Viper Squad completed their 2-week patrol and extracted without incident. No contact with Raven. No evidence of her current location. Mission unsuccessful. Chen was waiting when they landed. Her expression could have cut steel. "Sergeant Cole, my office, 1 hour." He cleaned up, changed into fresh uniform, and reported to Building 7. Back to the cold conference room. Back to Chen and Reyes and Morrison, who looked cautiously hopeful. "Your patrol was unsuccessful," Chen said without preamble. "Yes, ma'am. Target did not make contact." "Did you find any evidence of her current presence?" Cole thought about the note burning in his hand. "No, ma'am. Only old evidence from previous operations, nothing current." "She's gone then. Moved on. Or she recognized our patrol as a trap and avoided it. Hard to say." Chen studied him. "You don't seem disappointed by your failure." "Ma'am, I executed my mission as ordered. The outcome was beyond my control." "Was it?" Her eyes were hard. "Or did you perhaps execute your mission in a way designed to fail? Positioning your perimeter with exploitable gaps? Conducting your search pattern with obvious tells? Making enough noise to warn her away?" Cole's stomach dropped. She'd analyzed everything. Probably had tactical experts reviewing every movement, every decision. "Ma'am, I positioned my squad for optimal security and visibility. If the target was able to avoid detection, that speaks to her skill, not my tactics." "Does it? Because from where I sit, it looks like you deliberately sabotaged your own mission to protect an unsanctioned operator." Morrison spoke up. "Agent Chen, that's a serious accusation. Do you have evidence?" "I have a failed mission. I have a sergeant whose loyalties appear divided. And I have a target who's still in the wind because someone tipped her off." "I didn't tip her off," Cole said truthfully. "I never made contact with her." "Then how did she know it was a trap?" "Because she's a professional, ma'am. She survived 18 months alone in hostile territory by being paranoid and cautious. She would have spotted any unusual patrol activity and avoided it. That's not betrayal. That's her being good at what she does." Reyes leaned forward. "So what do you recommend, Sergeant? How do we bring her in?" "You don't, sir." Cole met his eyes. "You leave her alone. You let her keep doing what she's doing. You accept that some assets work best outside normal channels and stop trying to force control where it doesn't belong. That's not your call to make." "No, sir. But you asked my opinion. That's it. She's more valuable free than captured. Leave her alone." Chen stood. "This investigation isn't over. We'll find another approach, another angle. Eventually, Captain Vasquez will make a mistake. And when she does, we'll be ready." Or, Morrison said quietly, "you could accept that some battles aren't worth fighting, some assets aren't worth destroying, and some soldiers deserve our protection instead of our persecution." "Colonel Morrison, your objection is noted and dismissed. This meeting is over." Chen gathered her files. "Sergeant Cole, Specialist Harper, you're dismissed. But consider yourselves on notice. Any future contact with the target must be reported immediately. Failure to comply will result in court-martial. Clear?" "Crystal, ma'am." They left. Walked out of Building 7 into afternoon sun that felt like salvation. Free. For now. Morrison caught up with them outside. "Well done, both of you." "We failed the mission, sir," Harper said. "No. You succeeded at the mission that actually mattered, protecting someone who deserves it." Morrison looked toward the mountains. "She's still out there, still watching, still saving soldiers. That's success in my book." "Chen's not going to stop," Cole warned. "No, But she's also not going to waste unlimited resources chasing ghosts. Eventually, the cost-benefit analysis tips against her and she moves on to other priorities. Morrison smiled slightly. You bought time. That's all anyone can ask. He walked away, leaving them standing in the sun with their secrets and their choices and the knowledge that somewhere in the Dry Spire Mountains, a woman named Elena Vasquez was still free, still watching, still saving lives that would never know her name. And that was enough. That night, Cole couldn't sleep. He stood outside the barracks watching the mountains disappear into darkness, thinking about Elena Vasquez alone out there with Chen's hunters circling closer. His radio, the personal one, not military issue, crackled softly. The secure frequency Morrison had given them. A voice he'd only heard a handful of times, always in crisis, always calm. Viper Actual, this is Raven. You awake? Cole's heart jumped. He keyed the transmit button with hands that weren't quite steady. Copy, Raven, I'm here. Good. We need to talk, face to face, tomorrow night, grid reference. She rattled off coordinates that Cole recognized, a canyon 15 clicks north of base, remote enough for privacy, close enough to reach. 2,200 hours. Come alone. Tell no one. This is important. Raven, if this is about Chen's investigation, it's about a lot more than that. Just be there, Sergeant, please. The transmission ended. Cole stared at the radio, his mind racing. This was unprecedented. She never made contact like this, never requested meetings, never used words like please. Something had changed. He spent the next day trying to act normal while his thoughts spiraled. Harper noticed. She always noticed, and cornered him after evening formation. What's wrong? Nothing. You're a terrible liar. What happened? Cole pulled her aside, checked for surveillance, and told her about the transmission. Harper's eyes widened. She wants to meet? Actually meet? Face to face? That's what she said. It could be a trap. Chen could have compromised that frequency. I don't think so. Morrison gave it to us, and he's been protecting her this whole time. Then why now? Why after 18 months of staying invisible does she suddenly want contact? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Harper grabbed his arm. Not alone. If this goes bad, then it goes bad for one person, not two. You stay here. Cover for me if anyone asks. I'll be back before dawn. Aiden, that's an order, specialist. She didn't like it, but she nodded. Be careful. She saved our lives twice. But we don't actually know her. Don't know what she wants or what she's capable of. I know she's had 100 chances to hurt us and never has. That counts for something. At 2100 hours, Cole slipped out of base through a maintenance gate that wasn't quite as secure as it should be. He'd requisitioned a vehicle earlier, unofficial, off the books, the kind of favor sergeants could pull when they knew the right people. The drive took 40 minutes through terrain that got progressively rougher until even the dirt roads gave up. He parked and continued on foot, using night vision to navigate by starlight. The canyon appeared as a black slash in darker black, a wound in the landscape. At exactly 2200 hours, he reached the coordinates. A voice spoke from the shadows, making him jump despite himself. You came alone. Good. She stepped into the moonlight, and Cole saw her face for the first time without the barrier of a photograph. Elena Vasquez looked exactly like her personnel photo, and nothing like it at all. Same dark hair, same sharp features, same eyes that had seen too much. But the photo had shown a Marine officer in dress uniform, professional and polished. The woman standing before him wore weathered tactical gear, her rifle slung across her back, her face lined with exhaustion and something harder to name. She looked like someone who'd been at war for 18 months straight with no relief and no end in sight. Captain Vasquez, Cole said. Just Elena. I'm not a captain anymore. Haven't been for a long time. She gestured to a flat rock. Sit. We have things to discuss and not much time. They sat. Cole noticed she positioned herself with her back to the canyon wall, clear sight lines in all directions, escape routes mapped, old habits from staying alive alone. Thank you, she said quietly, for what you did. The patrol. I know Chen ordered you to find me. I know you could have. You made it easy to fail. Still, you chose to protect me instead of following orders. That matters. She pulled out a canteen, took a drink, offered it to Cole. He accepted, the simple gesture somehow profound. I'm leaving. The words hit like a physical blow. Leaving where? This theater, these mountains, this war. Elena stared at the stars. Chen's investigation is just the beginning. More people are asking questions, more resources being dedicated to finding me. Eventually, someone will get lucky, or I'll make a mistake, and they'll have me. I can't operate effectively if I'm constantly running from my own side. So you're just giving up? I'm choosing to fight on different ground. There are other places that need what I do, other soldiers who need watching. I'll go where the bureaucrats aren't looking yet. She met his eyes. But before I go, I wanted you to understand something about why I do this. Cole waited. 4 years ago, I was instructing at Scout Sniper School. Good job, prestigious, safe. Then one of my students, Private First Class Marcus Webb, died during a training exercise. Equipment failure, wrong ammunition issued by supply. Something that never should have happened. Cole's stomach dropped. Webb, Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb is in my squad. Different Webb, but the coincidence isn't lost on me. Elena's voice was heavy with old grief. Marcus was 19, brilliant shooter, kind kid. He died because someone in the supply chain didn't do their job properly, and nobody was ever held accountable. Just administrative error. File closed. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just listen. She turned the canteen in her hands, not drinking. After Marcus died, I started seeing all the ways soldiers get failed by the system. Not by enemies, by bureaucracy, by politics, by people who should protect them but don't. And I couldn't just keep instructing, keep training kids to go into situations where they'd be abandoned the moment things got hard. So you volunteered for the Ghost program. It was called Project Sentinel, still classified above your clearance. The idea was simple. Create solo operators who could provide crisis intervention in situations where official support was impossible. No rules of engagement to debate. No lawyers to consult. Just trained snipers with autonomy to save lives when the system failed. That's insane. One person can't what? I've done it. 14 interventions. 203 soldiers alive who'd be dead without me. Her voice hardened. The program works, but it works because we operate in the dark. The moment it's official, it stops working. Too many people with opinions, too many restrictions, too much oversight. So what happened? Why'd you go off the books? Elena was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. 6 months into the program, my handler, the officer running Project Sentinel, decided we needed to expand operations, start eliminating enemy commanders preemptively, assassinations disguised as combat casualties. I refused. That's not what I signed up for. I protect soldiers, I don't conduct political killings. She looked at Cole. He threatened to shut down the program, send me back to regular duty, let soldiers die because I wasn't willing to blur ethical lines. What did you do? I disappeared, took my rifle and my gear and vanished into these mountains, continued the mission on my own terms. No handler, no orders, no compromise. A bitter smile. They listed me as AWOL at first, then missing, then presumed dead. Easier than admitting they lost control of their own operator. Cole was beginning to understand. But you kept operating, kept saving soldiers. Because that's the mission, the only mission that matters. Protecting the people who actually fight while officers in safe buildings make decisions that get them killed. She stood, paced to the canyon edge. Morrison understands. A few others understand, but Chen and Reyes, they only see a rogue asset that threatens their authority. They'll never stop hunting me. Then don't run. Come in. Officially. Get reinstated. Work within the system. The system is what I'm fighting against. Elena's voice cracked. The system says you need authorization to save lives. Says you need permission slips and approval chains and legal review before you can stop soldiers from dying. I've seen squads bleed out waiting for approval to call fire support, seen helicopters grounded because the political optics were risky, seen good people die because the system valued bureaucracy over lives. Not all of it's broken. Enough of it is, and I can't fix it from inside. I can only work around it. She turned back to him. Which is why I need your help. With what? When I leave, someone has to keep watch. Someone has to care about the soldiers Chen and Reyes treat as expendable statistics. Elena pulled a small device from her pack, encrypted radio, military grade. This is a direct line to me. Wherever I go, whatever theater I operate in, this frequency will reach me. If Viper Squad, or any squad you trust, gets into a situation where official support isn't coming fast enough, you call. I'll do what I can. Cole stared at the radio. You're giving me a hotline to a ghost. I'm giving you insurance for when the system fails again, because it will. She pressed the device into his hands. But you need to be smart. Use it sparingly, only in genuine crisis, and never ever tell anyone where you got it. Chen finds out, she'll trace it back, and we're both finished. Elena, this is necessary. You've seen what I can do. Imagine if every squad had access to that capability when they needed it. Not officially, not through channels, just there. A safety net for when everything goes wrong. It was dangerous, possibly treasonous, definitely against every regulation Cole had sworn to uphold. It was also potentially life-saving. Why me? Cole asked. Why trust me with this? Because you protected me when it would have been easier to betray me. Because your squad understands that some things matter more than orders. And because... She hesitated. Because you remind me why I started this. Marcus Webb died alone. Your Staff Sergeant Webb lives because I was watching. That's not coincidence. That's purpose. Cole closed his hand around the radio. If I use this, if I call you, you'll come. No matter where you are. If I can physically reach you, yes. I can't promise miracles, but I promise I'll try. Elena checked her watch. I need to go. Chen has drones searching these mountains. I've got maybe 30 minutes before they complete their search grid. Where will you go? Better you don't know, but there are always soldiers who need protecting. I'll find them. She shouldered her rifle, preparing to disappear back into the dark. One more thing. Morrison, tell him I'm grateful for everything. Tell him yourself. Come to base, just once. Let him know you're okay. I can't risk it. Chen's watching him too closely, but he deserves to know his efforts weren't wasted. Elena started toward the canyon wall, then paused. Sergeant Cole, the soldiers I've saved, they're alive because they held their ground, because they didn't quit even when it looked hopeless. You did that. Viper Squad did that. Never forget, I can only save people who refuse to give up. The rest save themselves. Or they die. Or they die. That's war. She scaled the first section of rock with practiced efficiency. Stay sharp, Sergeant. Take care of your people. And if the worst happens, you know how to reach me. Then she was gone, climbing into darkness, becoming shadow, vanishing like she'd never existed at all. Cole stood alone in the canyon with the radio and the stars and the weight of impossible responsibility. He drove back to base in silence, his mind churning, slipped through the maintenance gate just before dawn, found Harper waiting in his quarters, anxiety written across her face. Well? Cole showed her the radio, told her everything. Harper held the device like it might explode. She gave you direct access to her. To help soldiers. That's all she cares about. That's all she says she cares about. Aiden, what if this is something else? What if she's not who we think she is? Then we've been saved twice by someone with ulterior motives that happen to include keeping us alive. I'll take that risk. Harper was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. We tell the squad? We tell the squad. They deserve to know. They gathered Viper Squad that morning. Webb, Santos, Price, Torres, even Davis, who'd earned his place through shared combat. Cole laid out everything. Elena's history, Project Sentinel, her reasons for going rogue, the radio. So she's AWOL, Webb said slowly. Technically a deserter. Technically protecting soldiers while the official system fails them, Santos corrected. Sounds like she's doing her job better than most people with authorization. She's giving us a weapon, Torres pointed out. A way to call for support when we need it. That's huge. It's also illegal, Price said nervously. If we get caught with that radio, if they trace our communications, then we face court-martial for protecting our own lives. Harper's voice was firm. I'll take that risk. She saved us twice. I trust her more than I trust Chen's investigation. Davis, the newest member, spoke hesitantly. What if we just tell command? Turn over the radio. Cooperate with the investigation. Get back on the right side of regulations. The squad turned to look at him. Not hostile, just disappointed. Corporal, Webb said quietly, you were paralyzed in combat. Frozen. You know what broke you out of that? Knowing someone was watching. Someone who gave a damn about keeping you alive even though you'd never met. You really want to take that away from the next soldier who needs it? Davis absorbed that, nodded slowly. No, I don't. Then we keep the radio, Cole said. We keep the secret, and we become the kind of soldiers who don't need rescuing, because that's what she wants from us. Not gratitude, excellence. They swore to keep it quiet, to protect Elena's gift, to honor her trust by being worth her effort. 3 days later, Chen summoned Cole again. He walked into Building 7 expecting another interrogation, more threats, more demands for cooperation. Instead, he found Chen packing files into boxes, her expression thunderous. Sergeant Cole? Sit. He sat. Project Raven is being terminated, Chen said without preamble. Effective immediately. My investigation has been shut down by people with more authority than sense. Apparently, some very senior officers believe Captain Vasquez is more valuable operating independently than captured and debriefed. Cole kept his face neutral. I see. Do you? Because I don't. We have an unsanctioned operator conducting military action without oversight. That should be unacceptable. But apparently the results justify the methods. She slammed a file into a box. 203 confirmed saves, 0 friendly casualties during her interventions, 0 international incidents, 0 compromised operations. The numbers make my concerns look petty. Maybe they are petty, ma'am. Chen's eyes flashed. Excuse me? Maybe operational effectiveness matters more than bureaucratic control. Maybe some soldiers work better outside the system because the system is fundamentally broken. Cole met her gaze. You want to arrest someone for saving lives. That says more about your priorities than hers. I want accountability. I want oversight. I want to ensure that military force is applied according to law and regulation. And Captain Vasquez wants soldiers to go home alive. Whose priority seems more aligned with our actual mission? Chen stared at him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, bitter and exhausted. You know what the worst part is? You're not wrong. The system is broken. I've spent 20 years watching good policies get destroyed by politics and bad policies survive because they protect the right careers. She sat heavily. But the alternative is chaos. Individual operators making life and death decisions without consultation or review. That's not a military. That's armed anarchy. Or it's soldiers taking care of soldiers when the officers fail them. And who decides when the officers have failed? Who draws that line? The people pulling triggers in the dark while you debate authorization in safe buildings. Cole's voice was steady. Ma'am, with respect, Captain Vasquez didn't go rogue because she wanted freedom. She went rogue because the system was getting soldiers killed. If you want her to stop operating independently, maybe fix the system that made her necessary. Chen absorbed that in silence. Finally, she stood. The investigation is closed. You and your squad are cleared of any suspicion of cooperation with an AWOL officer. Your records are clean. She handed him a document. This is an official memo stating that Project Raven has been reclassified above top secret. All files sealed. All inquiries terminated. Captain Elena Vasquez is officially listed as killed in action 18 months ago. Case closed. Killed in action, Cole repeated. It's cleaner that way. No AWOL charges. No desertion proceedings. Just a Marine who died serving her country and whose body was never recovered. Chen's expression was unreadable. She's dead, Sergeant. That's the official record, and dead people can't be investigated. Cole understood. Someone high up had decided Elena was more valuable as a ghost than a prisoner. So they'd killed her on paper and set her free in practice. Who made this call, ma'am? People who outrank me. People who apparently value operational effectiveness over my concerns about accountability. Chen gathered her boxes. I still think it's wrong. I still think we're creating a precedent that will come back to haunt us. But I've been overruled. For what it's worth, ma'am, I think you're a good officer who genuinely cares about doing things right. You're just fighting the wrong battle. Maybe. Or maybe you're also grateful for her interventions that you can't see the bigger picture. She moved toward the door, then paused. If you ever have contact with her again, and I'm not saying you will, because officially she's dead, tell her something for me. What's that? Tell her I hope she survives. Because the day she doesn't, the day she makes that one fatal mistake, there won't be anyone to write her real story. She'll just be a file in a vault that says KIA, and that seems like a lonely way to end. Chen left with her boxes and her concerns and her terminated investigation. Cole sat alone in the empty conference room, processing everything. Elena was officially dead. The investigation was closed. Chen had lost. Morrison had won. Except nobody had really won. Elena was still alone in the mountains. Chen's concerns about accountability weren't entirely wrong, and the system that had created this whole mess remained fundamentally broken. But 203 soldiers were alive. That had to count for something. Cole returned to his squad and told them everything. They absorbed the news in silence. So she's officially dead, Webb said, which means officially we never have to talk about her again. And unofficially, Santos asked. Unofficially, we have a radio that can reach a ghost when soldiers need saving. Cole looked at each of them. We use it wisely. We use it sparingly. We use it only when there's no other option, and we never ever tell anyone where it came from. Agreed? 6 voices. Agreed. The radio went into Harper's footlocker, buried beneath gear and ammunition and the photographs they'd collected over the months. Evidence of someone who didn't exist. Proof of someone who'd saved them. 4 months passed. Viper Squad ran missions with professional precision. They didn't call Elena, didn't use the radio. Became the kind of soldiers who handled their own problems because that's what she'd asked of them. Then Morrison received new orders. Transfer to the Pentagon. Promotion. A desk job far from combat zones and the mountains he'd protected. He called Cole to his office on his final day. Sergeant, come in. Cole entered to find Morrison's office stripped bare. Personal effects packed, commendations taken down. Nothing left but furniture and memories. Congratulations on the promotion, sir. Thank you, though I suspect it's less promotion and more removal. Someone decided I was too invested in protecting assets that don't officially exist. Morrison poured 2 glasses of whiskey, against regulations, but his last day allowed some latitude. To ghosts who save soldiers. They drank. She contacted you, Morrison said. It wasn't a question. I can neither confirm nor deny. Don't. I know you met her, know she gave you something, just like I know you've been smart enough not to use it. Morrison refilled their glasses. Before I go, I need to tell you something about why I protected her. You said you were saved by a sniper once. I lied. Well, half lied. I was saved, but not by a sniper. Morrison stared into his whiskey. 23 years ago, I was a private, fresh out of basic, deployed to a place I can't name for a mission I can't discuss. We were ambushed. My platoon was destroyed. I was the only survivor, wounded and trapped behind enemy lines. Cole waited. I should have died. Would have died. But someone found me. Carried me 15 kilometers through hostile territory to friendly lines. Saved my life. Morrison's voice was heavy. I never saw their face. Never learned their name. They dropped me at an outpost and disappeared before anyone could ask questions. Ghost operator, solo asset, someone who shouldn't have been there but was. Like Elena. Exactly like Elena. And for 23 years I've wondered who that person was. If they survived. If they kept doing that impossible work. And I swore if I ever had the chance to protect someone like them, I would. Morrison met Cole's eyes. Elena Vasquez isn't the person who saved me. But she's the same kind of soldier, the kind who sees someone dying and decides that's unacceptable. The kind who operates in the dark because the light is too slow, too political, too broken. Did you ever find out who saved you? No, and that's fine. They didn't do it for recognition. They did it because it was right. Morrison finished his whiskey. You have that radio. Use it wisely. Use it sparingly, but use it. Because there will come a day when official support isn't coming fast enough and soldiers are dying, and you have a choice: follow regulations or save lives. When that day comes, I hope you choose correctly. What's correctly, sir? The choice that lets you sleep at night knowing you did everything possible to bring your people home. Morrison stood, extended his hand. It's been an honor serving with you, Sergeant Cole. Take care of Viper Squad. And if you ever speak to our ghost again, tell her I understand. Tell her she's not alone. Tell her there are people who know what she's doing and why it matters. They shook hands. Cole saluted. Morrison returned it, his last salute in this place, to this soldier, for this cause. Then Cole left, carrying Morrison's blessing and his burden and his hope for a better system that probably would never come. 2 weeks later, the radio crackled during a quiet evening, Elena's voice calm and distant. Viper Actual, status check, how are you holding up? Cole keyed the transmit. We're good, Raven. Managing. You? Alive, mobile, currently operating in a different theater. Things are complicated, but soldiers still need watching. A pause. I heard Morrison got transferred. Pentagon assignment. Promotion. He deserved it, though I suspect he didn't want it. Another pause. Sergeant, I want you to know something. You and your squad, you're proof that the system can work. When soldiers take care of each other, when they prioritize lives over regulations, when they understand that the mission is protecting people, that's when we win. Not when we follow orders blindly, when we choose correctly. Chen said something similar about choosing. Chen's not wrong about everything, just about me. Elena's voice carried something that might have been a smile. Stay sharp, Sergeant. Train your people well. And remember, you've got backup when you need it, always. Copy that, Raven. Stay safe out there. You too. Raven out. The transmission ended. Cole sat in the darkness, thinking about ghosts and choices and the thin line between following orders and doing what's right. Viper Squad continued their work. Months turned into years. They ran missions, survived firefights, brought soldiers home. They didn't call Elena, didn't need to. They'd become the kind of unit that handled their problems because that's what she'd asked of them. But they knew she was out there, somewhere, watching over soldiers in different mountains, different valleys, different wars. A ghost who refused to stay dead because too many people needed saving and the official system was still too slow, too broken, too concerned with paperwork to prioritize lives. Torres eventually recovered fully, returned to active duty with a slight limp and a story she couldn't tell about how she'd survived. Harper made sergeant, earned her own squad, taught them the lessons Raven had taught Viper. Webb retired after 20 years, became an instructor himself, training young soldiers to be the kind who didn't need rescuing. Santos, Price, and Davis stayed in the fight. Good soldiers, professional, competent, each carrying the knowledge that somewhere in the dark someone was watching, someone who cared, someone who'd proven that one person with purpose could change everything. Cole made staff sergeant, then sergeant first class, led dozens of missions, brought his people home every time, and on the wall of his quarters, hidden behind a locker, he kept 3 photographs: a silhouette on a ridge at sunset, a woman's shadow moving through mountains, and a handwritten note that said, "Where others see darkness, I see the path forward." He never saw Elena Vasquez again. Never heard her voice except occasional status checks on the encrypted radio. Never learned if she survived or fell or simply moved too far away to maintain contact. But he didn't need to know. Because the mission wasn't about her survival. It was about the soldiers she kept saving, the lives she protected, the system she circumvented because circumventing was the only way to get things done right. 3 years after Morrison's transfer, Cole received an unmarked package. Inside, a medal, the Silver Star. Morrison's Silver Star, from 23 years ago when he'd been saved by an unknown operator in an unnamed place. A note accompanied it. For the ghost who saved me. I can't give it to them. Maybe you can pass it along. Morrison Cole held the medal, thinking about chains of salvation stretching across decades. Morrison saved by a ghost. Viper Squad saved by Elena. Future soldiers saved by whoever came next. He wrapped the Silver Star carefully, added it to the collection in Harper's footlocker, now his footlocker, since Harper had her own squad. Proof that somewhere, always, soldiers were watching over soldiers. That night he used the radio one final time. "Raven, this is Viper Actual. Final transmission. I'm rotating stateside. New assignment. The radio goes to my replacement. But before I go, thank you for everything." Silence. Then Elena's voice, softer than he'd ever heard it. "Thank you for understanding, for protecting what needed protecting, for becoming the kind of soldier who makes my job easier by being excellent at yours." A pause. "Stay safe, Sergeant Cole. The war will miss you, but your family needs you more. Live well." "That's an order." "Copy that, Raven. You too. Live well. Live long. Keep watching." "Always. Raven out." The radio went silent for the last time. Cole passed it to his replacement, a sergeant named Williams who'd proven himself in combat and understood that some tools were too valuable to explain. Williams took the radio with reverent hands, asked no questions, and promised to use it wisely. The torch passed. The mission continued. The ghost remained. Cole flew home to a country that didn't know her name, to a life that didn't include mountains and mortars and desperate calls into the dark. He left the war behind. But the war never quite left him. He thought about her sometimes, wondered if she was still out there, still saving soldiers who'd never know her name, still operating in the dark because the light was too slow to save lives. He hoped so, because somewhere, always, soldiers needed watching, needed someone who saw them not as statistics or assets, but as human beings who deserved to go home. Needed someone who understood that some rules were worth breaking if breaking them meant life instead of death. Elena Vasquez, Captain, Marine Corps, officially killed in action but probably still alive somewhere, had taught him that, had taught Viper Squad, had taught 203 soldiers and counting that sometimes the greatest heroes were the ones nobody was allowed to remember. Years later, Cole's daughter asked him about his time in the war, about the things he'd seen, the people he'd met, the moments that mattered. He told her about Viper Squad, about good soldiers doing hard work, about mountains and firefights and the fog of combat. He didn't tell her about Raven, about the ghost who'd saved them, about the woman who operated in darkness so others could walk in light. Some stories were too important to tell, too sacred to speak, too dangerous to acknowledge. But he kept the photographs, kept the memories, kept the absolute certainty that somewhere in the world's dark places, someone was watching, someone was protecting, someone was choosing lives over regulations and results over permission. And that was enough. That was everything. The mountains remember courage. So do the soldiers who survive them. And sometimes, just sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones history is not allowed to remember, but the saved will never forget. The end. Some debts can never be repaid. Some gratitude can never be expressed. Some heroes operate best in the dark, unknown, and unacknowledged, doing impossible work for people who will never learn their names. This story is for them, the ghosts who watch, who wait, who save. You may never be remembered by history, but you will always be honored by the lives you protect.